Good evening. Welcome to the Oxford High School Community Room for the Oxford Public Schools School Committee meeting of Monday, September 12th, 2022. Regular school committee meeting videotaped by Oxford Cable Access and broadcast live on the town's public access educational cable channel 194, which is also streamed live on the Town of Oxford website, Cable Access webpage. Video recordings of regular meetings may also be viewed subsequent to the live broadcast via the town's YouTube channel, which may be accessed from either the Town of Oxford website or the Oxford Public Schools website. Thank you. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. I am going to open the floor up for public comment. Comments are limited to topics relating to school business. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address and will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Although the school committee may hear comments on unanticipated topics, discussion or action on topics not specifically listed on the agenda will be postponed until a future meeting date. So at this time, the floor is open for public comment. Do not see anybody coming forward. I will close the floor for public comment. Next order of business on the agenda are special presentations from our building principals who are going to come up, and first half of this is to introduce the new staff, and then we may take a brief recess to meet and greet. So why don't we have our secondary administrators maybe come up first? Or is that what we're doing tonight, secondary or everybody? All right.
They're all here.
So if all four of you want to come up together, you can do that.
And Miss Miller's here for special ed also.
And if Mrs. Miller wants to come up for special ed, you all can come up. Take turns on the mic. All right, who wants to lead us off? Do we want to go young to old, old to young?
You mean by building, right?
Not students. Yes, now let's start with Chafee then.
Love to start.
All right, get that mic, yeah, so we
Just
can
to start
hear it.
with, beginning of the year went great. We had a terrific fall opening for the school once again. Building was absolutely spotless, I think, as you saw in your tours. Ready for all staff and welcomed everybody back. PTO hosted another annual ice cream social, always well attended, amazing amount of people in the back. This is our first full week back, as you know, so we'll see how our stamina is going. Not a lot of iced coffee at night. Our current enrollment is 98 kids in the K, 108 in the first grade, and 81 students for a total of 287 at Chafee. My new staff, as I got to introduce at the convocation, are very minimal. I have a new part-time custodian, Bob Morton. I have a lunch aide that we brought on, Amanda Henry, and I have a maternity leave right now currently filled by a Terry Labarsky, who is a 20-year veteran teacher who retired recently, and Mr. Lucas convinced her to come back into the kindergarten world. So far, she's showing up every day. It's definitely, she was a second grade teacher, and she said the other day, I've never experienced kindergarten, so I'm definitely taking a deep breath. So, but that's it, Chafee. None of my friends are here tonight.
All right, thank you. Committee members, any questions or comments for Chafee? All right, why don't we just go right to the high school? It's probably easier to pass the mic right down the line, probably, right?
Okay, good evening. Sure.
Hi.
I'll go next. Our opening, I think, went smooth. Everything's been going well. We have our homecoming this week, which is really exciting, really fast, it feels like. We have Spirit Week this week. We have our homecoming dance Friday night and homecoming all day Saturday. So that's exciting coming up. So new staff at Oxford High School, I'd like to start with Gina Gambasini. Gina is our new adjustment counselor for the ACE program. She has a ton of experience working in counseling since 2000 in many residential programs. She has worked in the Northbridge Public School District since 2015. We're happy to have her on board as a strong member of our ACE staff. Gina's here tonight.
Yeah.
Hi, Gina.
Gina.
Welcome.
Next, I'd like to introduce Linda Graham. Linda comes to us with many years' experience as a Spanish teacher. She has taught in Wachusett, Neshoba, Worcester, and at Quinn Sigamond Community College. She has volunteered her time for a women's initiative to mentor girls through the United Way of Central Mass. She was here this summer helping us with summer school, and we're super excited to have her with us. Linda?
Hi, Linda.
Good evening.
Christopher Shen. Chris is one of our new guidance counselors and comes to us from Bartlett High School. where he was for 10 years. He has not only helped create the master schedule, but was the department head, AP coordinator, SAT testing coordinator, and Naviance coordinator. Chris?
Chris.
He's also our new department head.
Nice.
Rachel Stone. Rachel is our new guidance secretary. She has experience as an administrative assistant at UMass and has now made Oxford High School her new home. She is also a parent in our district and our middle school cross-country coach. Rachel?
Hi, Rachel.
And now I'll introduce people who are not here tonight. We have Olivia Gasco, who is one of our new guidance counselors. She graduated from UMass Boston in May 2021. She did her internship at Burncoat High School in Worcester, and we're lucky to have her here with us at the high school. Emma Harper. Emma is our new biology teacher who just graduated from Western New England University with a degree in secondary education in biology. She did her student teaching at Minnechaug Regional High School in Wilbraham. She is teaching biology and environmental science classes here at OHS. Adriana Nading. Adriana is our new chemistry teacher who has been teaching since 2014. She has taught at Attleboro High School and at Abby Kelly Foster Regional Charter High School. She is teaching chemistry for us at the high school and is willing to teach AP Chem for us next year, which is great. Catherine Proctor. Katie has been a grade 6-8 Spanish teacher in the Stoughton Public Schools for the last 22 years and served as the head teacher for the World Language Department. She served on the Oxford Public Schools Superintendent Search Committee in 2021, the Oxford High School Principal Search Committee this past year, and we're excited to have her with us this year teaching Spanish and French. And we also have Victor Scafuro. Victor is our new math teacher, taking over Mr. Richards' classes for this year. He has experience teaching math in Avon and in Grafton. He is teaching geometry and integrated math for us this year.
Thank you.
That's quite a list, thank you.
That's quite a list.
Any questions for the high school, any comments?
Well, just I've heard great things about opening, so congratulations.
Thank you. Middle school.
Hello. Opening day honestly could not have gone better. I feel like I don't want to jinx it, but back to sense of normalcy. It was one of the most calm, productive openings we've had in a while. Kudos go out to my custodial staff with working this summer to ensure the building was ready, that grade 8 was moved in, that everybody was situated, and Mrs. Karsock and Miss Boss for, working with me most of the summer to bring the schedule together for all of the new kids that were transitioning in. So I thought it couldn't have gone better. The opening went really, really well. New staff. It's a little bit of a flux. We'll get through it. To start, we have Anthony Grumsky, who's not here. He refs, so I believe he had to ref tonight, so he's not here tonight. He was one of our teaching assistants last year, and he was also our health and safety monitor the year before, so he's not new to our OMS family, but he is a new teacher in the district. He recently acquired his certification in math and has taken on the role of math interventionist this year. He's also a Clark graduate, so he's local, and his mom also works in the district, so everybody knows Anthony. Pamela Mooney has taken on the role of grade 8 special education teacher. She comes to us from Foxborough, where she was a 7th grade liaison in special ed. She brings a wealth of experience to the table, and we're very fortunate to have her as part of our OMS team this year. Craig Kopka, who also couldn't be here because of a prior commitment, has taken on the role of grades 5 and 6 assistant principal. Prior to coming to OMS, he worked as a history teacher in the Worcester Public Schools for many years, and as an assistant principal in Tantascwa Middle School. He's been a welcome addition to our team now that we've transitioned 8 back into the school. And we had an unexpected resignation the day before school in grade 6 ELA and social studies, and we literally today just hired somebody, so she's obviously not here. Her name is Mary Sarachik, and she's taking on the role of grade 6 ELA and social studies teacher as of today. She comes to us, she has some experience as a grade 7 teacher at St. Mary's for several years before transitioning to OMS. Possibly have a new math interventionist hopefully by the end of the week, but I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but hopefully that position will also be filled by the end of the week. So that's about it. That's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee or comments? All right, thank you. Let's head to, maybe if you guys
You may have
switch
to,
seats,
yeah.
or slide down
Sorry, I'll slide over.
that corridor.
There we go.
All right, Laura Barton.
All right, so the year's starting strong. I've worked with the PTO to kind of revamp the staff room. We brought back the Chalk the Walk to Barton. I don't think we've had that the last few years. We have 15 new students that are in 3rd and 4th grade. We have some new recess toys to like make recess more engaging on the front field, so it's not just the playground. They have stuff to do up front. And the school counselor and we met with like all of 3rd grade and 4th grade to kind of review expectations those first 2 days of school, and so far everyone's been doing great. And you know, Mrs. Raffo tends to check in at recess, and I help and support the cafeteria so we can make sure everyone's following expectations. So we have 3 new staff to Barton. We have Emily DeAngelis. She recently got married this summer, so even though her email is Petrie, she is married and going by DeAngelis. She's coming to us from Newton Public Schools, where she taught 3rd and 4th grade, and prior to becoming a classroom teacher, she was a special ed aide for 5 years there. She has her bachelor's in elementary education from St. Anselm College, yeah. And I have like 5 other staff from that tiny little college, so it's kind of fun that they're all from that little place. She has her master's from Lesley University. She's currently commuting from Brighton, but looking to move out here, which is why she came out here to begin with. And she's done well sliding into 3rd grade. She started like the week before school started, and she's doing a great job. We also have Molly Quinn. She's a preschool aide. So she graduated from Salem State University with a degree in education and dance. She still loves doing dance. That's what she's doing tonight, so she's not here. But last year she was a sub in the district, so a lot of us got to use her. She was amazing. And we were really happy to bring her positive energy to preschool this year. And then we also have Joanne Milford. She's a 1-to-1 LPN for a student at Barton. She has a background in triage and also works as a nurse in the prisons. But she's done really well transitioning to an elementary school. It's a very different world, and she's done amazing. And she lives in Connecticut with her 2 children. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Barton? Yes.
Just a quick one I was going to say to Clara Barton and Chafee. I should have thought to ask, but you mentioned the cafeteria. How's the PIN system going?
Very well.
Yeah.
Great.
A lot of kids learned it like the first day, which is
Awesome.
great.
Yeah, I bribed them.
Yes, that first long weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
We're doing
Thank you.
all right.
That's it for me.
Thank you.
Follow up on that.
All right, Mrs. Miller.
Okay, so I have 2 new hires to introduce tonight, one of which is here. Miss Gianna Duncan joins our related service team as a speech and language pathologist. Gianna started in the Framingham Public Schools and most recently has worked in the clinical setting, treating children's various communication needs. We're happy to have her join our related service team. We also have, she's not new to the district, but she's a new certified special education teacher, Miss Christina Nicholson. We're so thrilled and proud that she is now a certified special ed teacher for our ACE program. She started as an IA in the district and has worked to receive her special ed teaching certification as a mom working, so we're really proud and thrilled to have her join the team.
That's very awesome. Any questions? All right. Thank you all very much. I think we do have in the schedule to take a short recess, so at this point, I'd like to take probably a 5-minute break so that the committee members can go out and just introduce ourselves to the new staff members. So we're going to take a break for 5 minutes, and we'll return in 5 minutes. All right, welcome back. Thank you for that, allowing us for that short delay. Always really great to go out and talk to the new staff members. So it's a nice opportunity for us as members to chat and meet and talk for a few minutes. So thank you for that. So moving right along on our agenda, we do have some minutes to approve. So we have the regular minutes of August 22nd. We'll need a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. 5 yes. Minutes pass. Next item on our agenda is central office report, so we'll go over to the superintendent, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. Personnel update. I put a job description out for you guys. We have some leftover Title I money from last year and some leftover money for this year. And what we'd like to do for those is hire a Title I reading and math interventionist, one for Barton, one for Chafee, to help us with our data and our learning for our students. They have schedules, they would do some push-ins, but also pull-outs with students, attend data team meetings and work with teachers, help close our learning gaps for our kids, is Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. So that's the first thing. Then we also are going to have an agreement with math consultant Kathy Looney, who many of you know is a great history teacher here, math teacher here for a long time. She's going to focus on working with math teachers in grades 7 through 12, creating common assessments linked to standards, train our math teachers on assessments, which is a great program, create common exit tickets connected to standards, and track data with our teachers, attend data meetings and department meetings, and work with grades 7 through 12. So we're excited to have her come on as well. Eventually, she'll also work with the 5th and 6th grade math teachers on math as well. So we're excited about that. Again, hoping to improve our data and our learning for our students through those positions.
All right, any questions for the superintendent? Mrs. Forbes?
So just a question, this job description on the backside, under
Yeah.
physical demands, I don't know if everybody's looks like mine. But
Yeah, I
okay.
apologize. I'm not sure why I printed out. It's the
Okay.
typical physical demands that's on every job posting we have.
Okay,
I
just so
apologize
that the
for that.
person
Yeah.
getting the job description gets.
Correct.
Right, okay, thanks, that was it for me.
My bad on the printing.
Mrs. Griffin?
For the Title I interventionists in reading and math, what grades would it be? For the whole district? Is it for
No, it's a
certain
good question.
schools?
So
Okay.
we're going to assign one person to Chafee all day and one person to Barton all day. So the one for Chafee will be K through 2, and the one at Barton will be grades 3 and 4.
And would the person be doing both reading and math?
Yes, that is our hope, yes. That's what we'd like to do.
So not necessarily that they would have a training in both, because that would probably be very difficult to find.
Correct, correct.
So they might be strong in reading, weak in math, maybe vice
Correct.
versa.
It is possible if we get a great reading person and a great math person, that we mix it up and they cover K through 4 and help each other out. That is possible. But we're not sure what we're going to get. We just posted it, so.
And and it would be, again, they would do both reading and math,
Correct,
one person.
correct.
And how many students do you expect that they'd be able to meet with?
On a regular basis, it depends on what the data shows us and what kids need for supports and help. So,
But at a max?
I don't know.
No, don't know.
Number I can give you, any student that needs help. Will help both buildings.
Mr. Ruck?
Do we already have other Title I interventionists, correct?
Correct,
So this is an additional 2.
correct.
One
It's
per
additional
building.
one at each school. We lost a bunch of our teacher assistants that we had doing some of this work for our ESSER funds.
Yeah.
So we're saving some of our ESSER funds for next year. And so this would replace some of that personnel that was lost for that over ESSER. So,
Kind of a follow-up to Mr. Burke. What we do have for interventionists, are they reading and math already, or how many reading, how many math?
I believe there's a reading and math in each building. There's 2 in Barton and 2 in Chafee, but I'm not sure. I believe they do both.
So that's through ESSER, but then you're not even accounting for the fact that you have Title I teachers,
Correct.
right? So there's even more staff.
Yeah, it would be great to, at some point, I'd love to request that we just get an update of, I think it's great that we're hiring more people, but I'd love to know, like, what we have and what their certifications are.
Sure,
It's always great to see.
sure.
It's a,
Okay.
Does this require a vote?
No.
These
No,
positions?
I just wanted to keep you guys updated.
Yeah.
I know Mrs. Griffin had come up at our data meeting. We were concerned about some of the staff that were losing to
Yeah.
help with our data, and we're hoping, over our discussions with the principals, curriculum director this summer, this was something if we could do, we wanted to put back in.
yeah, I think it's
That's really where
great.
it came from that discussion, so.
And I think
Again, we want to help kids get better.
the more we could use our grant money, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, but to that point, I mean, I've always said, I mean, we can have all these positions, but then it's the application of it.
Right.
How are we rolling it out? How are we assessing it? How are we, evaluating what we're doing? Because we can have a chunk of money and throw, get positions. We gotta actually be, so that it's the plan. So not only would I love to hear about the numbers we have, but also the plan, you know, a quarter in, like where are we at? What are we doing? And those are some things I think that we have embedded in our goals anyways, so. All right, and that being said, let's move right along to the next agenda topic.
Sorry, the chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize. There's some new folks to the
Oh,
district
yeah,
that I
go
wanted to
ahead.
introduce that did not get introduced tonight. I just want
Sure.
to welcome them
Yeah,
really quick.
apologize.
Tomas Lazansky is our new assistant football coach and weight room advisor. Emily Peach was missed. Evan Sheldon is our new long-term sub-math teacher at the high school. I'm sorry, hold on. Evan Sheldon is our substitute teacher district-wide. He'll be in different schools. Amanda Hendry is our new recess lunch aide at Chafee. Michaela Escolas is our educare aide, and that is district-wide as well. And Richard Ralt is our new middle school boys soccer coach for the athletic department. And that's it. I just wanted to welcome all of them. It's wonderful to have them joining us.
Yes, thank
So-
you. Welcome aboard. Yes, Mr. Burke.
Just real quick, Mr. Lucas, if I
Yep.
could add to that, just because of my personal knowledge of volleyball. We
Yeah.
also have a new volleyball JV coach that
Yes.
stepped up last second.
Yes,
You
that
wanna
is
mention
correct.
for us?
That is correct. Morgan Button is our new JV volleyball coach, so we welcome her also.
Yeah.
Morgan's doing a nice job.
It's great of her to
She's
step
also a
up.
teacher in the high school.
Right.
Right, and the JV coach moved
Thank
to
you.
varsity, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, good, thank you.
Thank you. Good catch.
All right, so moving on to the next agenda topic is our goals. So the school committee goals, and last meeting, we had some really good discussion, and I think really kind of taking our traditional goals that we've had for quite a few years in this district and kind of looking at some, you know, other districts and how they did it. So really took some of what we talked about, created this document. I know we've all had a chance since last meeting, so a couple weeks now to kind of look at this. You know, we do need to take a vote on this at some point, so I guess I'm gonna open the floor up to discussion right now. If there's anything that jumps out at people, if there's any questions or concerns, if there's anything we want to add. So the floor, Mrs. Forbes.
So I appreciate all the work done on this. One of the things I felt after I read it is like, I really need hardcore, what are we gonna do about it? So one of the things that I came up with as the chairman of the subcommittee, the DEI subcommittee, I'm desperately seeking members, as I think we are for all of our subcommittees now that we're on a new school year. So one of the things I popped into my head, because I have nothing but time, is that maybe we look to be present at the open houses with a little clipboard and a little blurb about each of our committees. And I don't want to, make any assumptions, but I feel like parents who are new to the school district have kindergartners, first, second graders, they're gung-ho to get involved. We really need more community support, which we're struggling with. But parents are community members, so I think that's something that I would like to add to our goals. And I think it's something that we can do. I mean, we've got them coming up in November, day and night. And if we could work a way that someone's present, I guess I'll do the days. I'll say that right now, because y'all have different jobs. But I think it's important to put a face,
Yeah.
to not just say it on camera that,
Yeah.
everybody's not watching.
So, where would you add it to? It's
So
looking like goal one,
on our
right?
goal 1, under 2, engaging parents and community members, again, I struggle with how to engage the community members. We do the coffees, and we don't get a great attendance of anybody. We're gonna continue to do that, hoping that word will spread and people will come. But I feel like we really need a little more of a hardcore plan, I guess.
So
We
just
gotta-
add a bullet that says,
Or even under resources needed. School committee member present at open houses.
well, I mean, I think we
Something-
could just add it in to the
Under the-
objectives part, right? Because we have the plan, we just add a bullet at the bottom that says, school committee members, set up basically set up an informational, kind of, I
Just
don't
a
want to
little
say
table.
table, but an
Right.
informational center at each of the open houses so parents can hear what we're doing. I think it's a great idea.
So if I could request that committee chairs get me a little blurb about your committee so that I'll sound as if I'm on all of them. And I'll do it for my committees.
Yeah.
Not so much probably the negotiations because that's different, but, the other committees that meet regularly for policies and DEI would be great.
I think we have, Helen, Murray, we have descriptions of each committee that you could just take.
Oh, Can I get copies of those, please, Helen? Thank you. No rush, when you get a chance, I don't need them till November. Thanks, Dave.
So when is it just, do they have, how do we do it in this how do we do it? Is it just the parent-teacher conference night, or is there like an open house night?
There's open house nights for each building.
Right.
That's
Beginning of
coming
the
up,
school year,
right?
that's happening right now. I think not Chafee, Barton tomorrow? Barton or Chafee is tomorrow, it's on my phone.
Is that the first one, or did they?
That's the first one, but then there's also, I think what September is referring to in November is when you get to have your parent-teacher conferences. And we have those 2 half-days built in this year that we're trying, because families were communicating us they didn't have enough time to meet with all their kids' teachers. And so there's an afternoon session in all the schools, and then each school is gonna have a night session for parent-teacher conferences as well.
Right, my only
So-
thought there is, I mean, that's November. The quarter of the year is gone.
I know,
So
I
that's why
didn't
if you get
realize
to
we
the open
have-
houses.
I didn't realize open house, I just
Yeah.
was looking at the calendar trying to figure out when we could work it, but sure.
Homecoming.
Homecoming, I'll be cooking burgers and dogs, are you available? I'll be in the snack shack.
But I think that's a great time to
Oh.
speak to community members yourself. I think what we probably all do this as, members of this committee, is talk to people in the community all the time and invite them all the time to participate. And it's those one-on-one conversations sometimes that I think are the most meaningful, even though we want to capture people.
Well, I want a
Yeah.
one-on-one at the open house or at the conference. I want to talk to
Yeah.
people
Right, I think if
one-on-one,
you have
but
a
I don't
table,
know
that's
the
where you
right
can get
people.
it, yeah.
I don't know the kindergarten parents or
Oh,
second grade parents.
It's a great idea. Are you open to jumping on tomorrow's?
Tomorrow, what time
tomorrow?
is it?
If we-
Because I have DEI, speaking of which, at 4:30. What time is it?
It probably won't be till the evening, right?
Um,
6?
Yeah, 5 to 7. Chafee's is 5 to 7, tomorrow night, it's Chafee, 5 to 7.
And Barton is Thursday.
I mean, Corey and I have a business manager meeting tomorrow, so it'd be nice to have, if you
5
can, because
o'clock.
I think the more you can do it. If we
Yeah,
can do it in
DEI
September, we do it in November.
All right, so I can be there not at 5. I can do DEI. It's our first meeting. So I can probably, Molly will be there. I can hand it over to her and get over to Chafee by like 5:30. I cleared it with her first.
Yeah, just 3 seconds ago.
3 seconds ago, that's right. Step it up, girl.
All right,
Just kidding.
if she has a panic attack, just breathe.
She'll be fine. No, it'll be,
I know.
it'll be either over
But I think if you
or-
want to, I think it's a great idea. Just set up a little table and you can just,
All right, Helen, I
Awesome.
take that back. I need those today. And then when is,
Barton is
get-
Thursday from 5 to 7. Barton.
Thursday, 5 to 7. Sure, I'm available that day too.
and then I can help you the following week at the secondaries, hopefully. I should be freed up. But that's a great idea. So we'll add that bullet to our goals. Is there anything else that jumped out at people? I mean, we have our 4 goals, excuse me.
Sorry, what?
There's some holes we gotta.
There are some
And
holes,
I was
good
thinking
point,
number
Mr.
one,
Burke.
going back
Number
to-
1, part 4, I had, honoring stakeholders. That was one of the things that we didn't have anything substantial, or we didn't have anything we agreed upon. Is there anything we want to?
Can you remind me what that was about?
That was when we do the honoring, community member.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to see through our CPAC, potentially some type of award or recognition for educators that go above and beyond, that parents feel have made a significant impact in their children's lives. And it might not be something that a lot of teachers are nominated for. It might come maybe towards the end of a child's, education, because they're graduating and the family feels like some teacher really went above and beyond for their child. But I know that a lot of districts do something like that, and it's pretty significant.
Yeah,
And
it is. I mean, is that something we want to tie into one of our goals, or is that something that we can, because seeing the CPAC
Right.
is actually going to become a reality this year? Like something to drive through
and
that department?
that's just like,
Yeah,
it's just
no,
a
I agree.
thought, like that's an area
Yeah.
where I think maybe our district does not
there
necessarily
any-
get
so
the
is-
recognition they
Oh,
deserve.
I totally agree, and I
know?
think from that avenue, I would definitely approach through CPAC to have that become. like
But
I
I'm
said,
sure there's other stakeholders too, like,
Potentially, but how does that drive us into a goal,
Right.
I guess is what I'm saying. Do we want to just strike 4 and just not have anything this year and then just revisit it if we need to?
No. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee would like to speak and say we need this to stay.
Okay, so then,
Goal 4.
then give me, what we're honoring and.
No, he's not talking goal 4.
Oh, didn't you just say goal 4?
Number
No.
4.
Number
goal
4,
one.
honoring
Oh,
stakeholders.
sorry, I'm sorry.
We're not striking your own goal.
I'm also thinking
Yeah,
about
it's like,
um,
my whole goal.
an ed foundation.
Huh?
An ed foundation. And I don't know, you know, Mr. Lucas, I know you came from a district that I was very impressed listening to your parents and listening to your community that you were, you know, a principal for so long at.
Yeah.
Your ed foundation was very strong, but that's a great way to honor stakeholders, is, you know, that our stakeholders being our teachers and our administrators and people that have these cutting edge initiatives that they want to bring into our classrooms and community. I don't know how we could ever get that Ed Foundation off the ground, but
So how
having
does,
mini
yeah.
grants.
how does Ed Foundation correlate with this? I
Well,
guess I need help for you explaining.
if we could support maybe creating the drive for an Ed Foundation, so stakeholders that are committed to our district can get some type of seed money for grants or for their initiatives, they would apply, there would be a process, they would have to, you know, I'm assuming that there'd be some type of board, and we would get other stakeholders in our community to be involved. It could be, you know, anybody that's interested, but I think it would be nice to have people from all areas of the town kind of participating in it. And then whoever has, you know, a worthy cause, they would get some type of honor to have a grant, a mini grant, and recognition, and we could probably write a blurb up and post it in some newsletters for the school or some happenings.
All right,
It's
so
just a
I'm just trying
thought.
to, so I feel like I'm in a
I know, I'm
meeting with.
spitballing.
No, but I'm like in a goals meeting with a staff member, so I'll just push back. How does that correlate with?
Again,
everything
you're
in
just asking me to
communication?
kind of come off the cuff with something.
Well, no,
not-
I mean,
not
I'm just
something I
asking if it's
drafted here,
something
but-
that I mean, we've all had a couple weeks to look at this, so. if
I
there's
know, I gave
anything-
you a good chunk of it.
If there's anything that do we want to pursue? Part 4 on goal 1, do we just want to, yes?
So I love the idea, absolutely. But going back to just our previous conversation, we're really struggling trying to
Yep.
get people on what we're currently seeking. I am so excited this CPAC is getting underway and Mrs. Miller's working hard on getting parents involved and has a lot of interest. So I think it's something maybe we want to look at next year. I think, again, biting off more than we can chew, we got to get people in, get our current committees.
Yeah.
I mean, my current committee doesn't have any parents, doesn't have any going for this year, so I really need to focus on those before we add new. And then my second question would be, where does the money come from?
Local community members that would like to, you know, pledge assistance. That's usually how an Ed Foundation works, that
Okay.
people.
I don't know anything about
like
those.
a bank or a different local business would give a certain portion of the money to the foundation. And it's something that's not necessarily through the school. It's, you know, a
Okay.
separate entity.
Okay.
But our teachers, who are stakeholders in our community, they would get an honor through it
Right,
by
okay.
having a
Gotcha.
grant.
Thank
The
you.
way it's run at Cantas was the group of parents that volunteer and local businesses really
Yeah.
paying for it. And then every year, teachers get to apply for grants, like when Chromebooks were coming out or iPads, and they can make a proposal, there's a packet, there's a formula, and they apply for the grant through the TED Foundation. The TED Foundation grants like 10 to 20 every year for teachers to do innovative things in the classroom. But it's really community supported by parents, and the board does a lot of, and they do 4 or 5 fundraisers a year. They have events in the community where people can go and buy a ticket and do raffles and stuff like that. So it's very parent-driven, but very business, local business. And my experience was it was a lot of older business folks who wanted to give back because their kids got so much out of the school. So it was a nice situation that way. That's the Ed Foundation that I came from. They call it TED, where I am from, but that's how it's set up there, just as an explanation. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about them.
Yes,
So if I can suggest, we have something very similar where I'm at. We call them community service learning grants, so they have to be tied to some kind of community service and involve the students and involve somebody from outside the school. It's fantastic. But maybe I suggest if we want to have this as part of our goal, that the goal this year is to gather that information on how they work, who's doing them, what do the models look like, so that next year we'd be ready to maybe put something together ourselves.
Yeah. And
I think it's a lot to say, we
Like-
should
So
get that
school
done this
committee
year.
drive that bus? Like who? Who drives that bus in your district?
Yeah,
It's usually parents that are, it's not necessarily
ours
the
is
school
done by
committee.
students, parents, and outside community members, yeah.
All right, so back to, Mr. Burke just brings up a point, if we want to, do we want to put it as a goal of exploring this and then coming back to the, the superintendent to, spread this out to his administrative team to see if there's buy-in across buildings? Like, I just don't know where to go with that, what you guys want to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you how it started where I am. It's been there for a long time.
Maybe it's something that we can have more conversations about, but not have it on a goal.
That would be
Right
my
now?
suggestion, right?
All right, so
I
we're
think
gonna
it's a
sh-
great thing to look
So we're in
into.
agreement with striking number 4 on goal 1.
Do we also need to fill in how progress will be measured on number 1 on goal 1?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Not
Yes.
sure I have an answer for that, but we did fill it in.
Yeah, that is a good point. So goal 1, action step 1 is to collaborate with the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Town Manager in connection with the capital budget requests, FY23 budget, and continued building of partnerships. Success in meeting this objective will be,
So I think we could say that we already started part of that initiative by having our building-based tours that occurred and inviting, FinCom and other stakeholders and the DPW and, I think we have a very good partnership already going where people have come and seen our needs and our capital request items in person. I think that we do a good job at, attending town meetings and our budget meetings that are with the joint between the selectmen and our school committee. However, I think it would be nice if we had a little bit more of a presentation to our community at town meeting, for example, like our town manager does. She does an exceptional job with her slideshows and really showing what those capital items might be or what the needs are. I mean, I've been blown away by some of the things that she's presented. And having a picture, it is 1,000 words. And I think that one thing that we lack is, pictures, unfortunately, of some of our infrastructure problems, like our cracking foundations and our roof. We can say it, but when people see it, it's hard for people to say, ooh, I'm not gonna fix that. So maybe having a presentation that we put together for town meeting.
Are we allowed to do that?
I don't know why not. I mean, we're a committee, and if we're asking for people to support, if we have a warrant item, of course, I would assume it would be connected to something that would go through the warrant process. Or it would be, a capital item
Right.
request.
We're talking about big stuff mostly.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's usually the part of the budget that people vote on at town meeting for something like that. Then we would have a presentation that would support our asks.
right, so, and again, it's a fabulous idea, I'm not saying, but we have to figure out how to, like,
Measure all this.
exactly. So
Quantify it.
really, it's about collaborating with the town boards in connection with budget-related issues and building those partnerships. So success in meeting this objective will be measured by continuing to invite other town departments to school events and meetings, and also school committee members attending meetings in various town departments. I mean, I think that's how we can measure it. And then, things like that idea is a great idea, pal. If we have something big that needs to go in front of the town, then we should create some sort of presentation, some visual. So I agree. I think that's just separate from what we're trying to accomplish in just the measurement of action step 1.
I think that's part of the collaboration. If you want to collaborate with finance and selectmen and everybody, then you should be prepared with a,
Correct.
So what's that-
So when we
what's
go
that
to one
bullet
of their
sign?
meetings, we will be prepared to present what we need to present. But we could sit here and just go down and we could add all these things. We should do this, we should do that. Like, those will be steps within the ultimate attending of meetings, you're right. We shouldn't just go sit at a finance meeting. Next time, if we go to a finance meeting for capital budget issues and it's building stuff, we should bring a presentation.
which
Absolutely.
we have always brought a presentation forward. But I'm just adding that we have never, to my knowledge, brought a presentation with a lot of images. We've brought it with figures,
Correct. Yeah, so, yeah,
Yeah.
visual presentation,
So
absolutely.
that's
And that's something that
what I
we
was
would
proposing.
drive through the superintendent, through the business manager, whatever the situation is. Yeah, I agree with that.
that was something new.
So, are we okay with kind of what I said, measured by continuing to invite other town departments to our events and meetings? And school committee attending meetings at various departments within the town, yes.
So I guess just, word issue, continuing to invite is not measuring progress, seeing if they continue to attend. Because the select board, the new select people have been great coming to our meetings,
Very
so
good
as long as
point,
we're
yeah.
collaborating, they need to keep coming back and bringing others.
Yeah, so continue to invite / monitor attendance, or just continue to monitor attendance, I think
Well,
that's.
I don't wanna say monitor attendance, I don't want it
Well,
to
then
sound
tell me
like
how
that,
you want it
but-
to
I don't think our
say.
goal can be
just-
determined
no.
by their attendance at our meetings.
Right.
That's something they gotta do.
Right,
Right, I
And
mean,
they've
we
been
keep
excellent,
inviting
but-
them, but like I said, you can't measure your invites. You know what I mean? Your goal is to build this collaboration, so you're measuring whether it's working, right?
And I think it's been quite successful. I've seen,
So far, so it's the continued,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
I know, I don't know how to
We
word
can
that
only
without
measure
sounding
what
like
we
a
can
teacher.
do. What we can do is continue to invite them,
yeah.
unless there's something else you can think of, like, we're gonna make them dinner.
Let's try it, let's try it.
You know what I'm
All right,
saying?
all right.
As
I
far as
just
what we
feel
can
like, you know-
measure, we can't measure whether they decide to come or not. And
No,
that's
but
not
we
on
can
us.
measure if they're coming. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
all four, two
don't-
of them have been pretty consistent.
I don't think we have
We
to.
can measure and be like, wow, now 4 of them are. Either we're doing something right, or our invitations include dinner and it's more,
So
you
I
know.
apologize, I misspoke. We can measure whether or not they come.
But I don't
we can
think
make
that's
a
our-
goal based on whether or not they come.
All right,
That's on
I
them.
What
just
we-
find invitations irremeasurable.
I would just say,
I mean,
So-
I
I
just
hear
want
what
to see
you're
that
saying.
it's working, you know what I
Yep.
mean?
How
Like,
do we
we
know
can
it's
keep
working?
inviting. If they're not coming, we're doing
I
something
think
wrong.
it's working, because I've seen great attendance, starting with, well, I'm trying to remember everything, but going back to graduation last year. I mean, that was fantastic.
Right.
And I just saw the walkthrough happen.
3, we want 5.
We're getting there.
But
I
so
think it's,
here's-
put it
so-
this way, it goes both,
He's right.
it goes both, if I may, it goes both ways. So how many Board of Selectmen meetings have you attended in the last year? How many FinCom meetings have you attended in the last year?
At least 2 of each so
Okay,
far.
so I think if we want to extend it and we want to make it a goal too that's meaningful, where we're building collaboration, you know, we can extend the invitations, but we can also take the initiative to be present at other meetings as well.
Which is part of what we put in there
Right.
for measurement.
That we can
Right.
measure.
So what it comes down to, just to clarify what September's saying, is our goal is to continue the invitations and then us going, but what we do is when we evaluate our goals at the end of the year, we say, okay, we invited, but we didn't get them, so how can we get them? And then we maybe tweak what we have in here. We try to figure out a way, how do we get more attendance?
Right.
Yeah.
And to Pal's point, we can look at how many meetings did we go to.
Right,
Exactly, because that's why we're adding, it. We have to do
right.
our part as well.
And I know when we go, we can't, you know,
All right,
have a
so
quorum.
were you able to capture that?
Yep.
Okay, so why don't we'll go with that.
God bless you, Helen.
Thank you, Helen. Is there any other pockets that we missed in here?
yep.
So I think goal 1, where we've caught any areas that we didn't do anything. Goal 2.
I already feel like, you know, we're on the right track. I just want to talk about still goal one, section 2, engaging parents and community members in the working of the school. I just want to give a shout out to the administrators who have done some fantastic newsletters. That has been, yeah, been exceptional. So I already feel like we're making, you know, I can't take any of the credit for that, but I think that the school district is making some great growth on sharing all those positive happenings.
All right,
And
anything
yeah.
else on goal 1? All right, goal 2, assessment, academic, social, emotional, and behavioral. We have 4 action steps. Seeing
Do you want to
here.
go through each action step maybe so people at home can also hear the goal?
Not really.
Would you like me to?
No, I mean, I will. Goal
Sorry.
2, the school committee will ensure that data is used to effectively support student growth and achievement. Measurable objectives, identify data sources needed to successfully monitor student achievement. Receive regular updates on student achievement using identified data. Support professional development opportunities focused on using data to improve teaching and learning, and monitor the district growth plan to ensure progress in using data to inform instruction. So first action step is that the school committee will identify sources of data to use in order to monitor growth and achievement academically, socially, emotionally, and behaviorally. So we have success in meeting this objective will be determined by the school committee's agreement to a menu of achievement data sources they will use to help monitor student achievement. Universal screening, passing rates per grade, per subject, attendance, discipline, MCAS, access, AP scores, annual presentation from ELL, student services and counseling departments. Maybe there needs to be iStation in there, right?
Part of the universal screening data?
Does that fall into that? Number 2, the committee will identify a regular schedule of meetings to receive updated achievement data. So success in meeting this objective will be determined by the school committee's agreement to a regular schedule of meeting dates to receive updated achievement data. So I know that's something that we either have established or had talked about establishing. I can't recall if we have established.
We
Okay.
have a curriculum
We have dates.
Okay.
and data subcommittee.
Well, right, you have that, but then how does it come to the full board?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Usually after our meetings, there's a presentation by
Yeah.
Okay.
prior to the full board.
But I would like to define updated achievement data. And I'd like to know in particular what the committee might be interested in seeing for the data. And it might be what's up above already in action step number 1.
But isn't that something that you would discuss in your subcommittee?
Yes, but since we're just driving the goal right now and we have you all present, it would be great. I would appreciate knowing what interests you folks, because otherwise, if we don't have a public meeting and talk about this, I'll never know if you have something that's important for you, like high needs student population. I really want to get to the nitty gritty of that this year and see that data. I know that I look for certain data all the time, all year long, but I don't know what data you folks look at. I don't know what data is important to you. I don't know how you use that to drive.
All of it.
Right. So I think that's one thing that I'm interested in knowing, how my other committee members use data and what data they're interested in pursuing and understanding, so we can all kind of drive our goals.
Well, I mean, it appears all of it's captured above in number 1.
And there's way more data
That's
than
how I
that.
read this.
Yeah.
And I think sorry, Bill.
Yeah.
No,
I think to me, the universal screening data encompasses a ton of
Data.
a ton of different assessments that we use. So when I read this, number 2 was basically saying, we're gonna set up a schedule to get regular updates on all this stuff that's in number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that will include those assessments that we look at with our committee. Are you saying you would like to spell that out further?
So we all gave individual feedback to Mr. Canacchioli and did not communicate together, right? And this is one of the things that I put forth. So I don't know what other data interest other members on this committee. And that is why, I would hate to sit here and think that I was able to capture everybody else's thoughts on data, because I think that there's a wealth out there of different.
All right, so let's open it up
So
to the
that's
committee
what I'm
members.
looking-
Is there
that's
any
what I'm driving
data?
at.
Is there any data that's not within those 6 bullet points, noting that universal screening data is an open umbrella to a lot of what we have? Is there any additional data points that you would be looking for, Ms. Cook?
No, I think you captured it by saying universal screening data, so
Okay.
just whatever's
All right.
presented.
Thank you. Mrs. Forbes, anything specifically you're looking for in addition?
No, but just to answer Mrs. Griffin's question, I don't know as much about some of these screenings as you all do because I don't deal with them in my work. So I do have things that are a little bit more important to me, the passing rates certainly, our graduation rates, discipline data, MCAS scores, because I think those things are important. I totally think that if we can throw in the bullet of using the information above, just to clarify what we're looking for, but I understand what she's saying. And where we haven't spoken about it, I don't really know what access is. I hate to say that out loud, but you guys have a lot of knowledge I don't have. So I defer a lot of that, the data and all of that, when you speak of it. I trust that you know what you're talking about because I don't.
Right.
So.
And I think the only reason why I know more is because of independent research that I've had to do, and I think that takes all of us a lot of time to develop. It doesn't happen overnight. But I think it's important, you
And
know.
terrible to admit this too, but data is not my thing. So I would probably never do that research and learn that information.
All right, so nothing in addition?
Nothing in addition.
Mr. Burke, anything in addition to this?
I'm just looking, because I think September just mentioned it, or Molly might have mentioned it, but graduation
I mentioned that,
rates,
the
is that on
graduation
here?
rates. Yeah.
Post-graduation, any of that kind of data, what are our kids doing?
And I loved, if I may, the presentation we had last year that Mr. Lucas gave from our data coordinator about, you know, where our students are going, what are they doing, if people leave the district, you know, if we could really kind of get to why is the attrition the way it is in certain areas. Is it because we're missing programs that are enticing to students, or is it because we're not meeting certain needs of some type of population of our students?
If I could just steer us back, though, the action step is we're going to use data
That's
to
data.
monitor growth in academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally for our current students. I'm not saying that anything you guys are talking about is not important. Just to me, it's not applicable in this part right here.
Well, I'd say it's very important and very applicable to know why students might
And again,
leave
Mrs.
in
Griffin.
order to.
Mrs. Griffin, I'm not saying that it's not. It's in this goal. We could sit here and we can peel through every single one of these action steps and be here all night. I'm not saying that that's not important. It is, but it doesn't fit into this part, in my opinion, right now. If you want to talk about graduation rate, I think that should go in there because those kids are with us this year.
So if I may,
Yes.
I don't know how you keep the students you have if you do not know why the students that left.
Understood.
So that's why I think it's applicable. That was what I was driving at.
Into this,
Yeah.
right here.
Right, so I was saying the presentation again that we got from Mr. Lucas last year about students and where they, you know, went out of the district.
Yeah.
That was great data for me, because I never saw that before as a committee member. That fine of a detail. And if we drove down into that data a little bit more maybe this year and kind of understood, if possible.
Yeah.
And maybe we can't do that drilling down. Maybe that's something that happens more on Mr. Lucas's side with his administrative team. They know those students, and we can't look at students the way they can look at students. But I'm sure that they could analyze that data a little bit more deeply and see some patterns and trends to understand maybe why there's the attrition that exists in this district. And we could kind of make some meaningful changes.
David, Pal, is it easier just to, under where it says attendance reports, we put attendance/enrollment reports? Because
Yeah.
I think enrollment's what you're talking about, right? We look at the enrollment, where are the kids, where are they going?
All right, so we can add those. Add graduation rates, if you don't mind, a bullet, and if you want to do postgraduate data, or you want to do enrollment data, I mean, I don't know if it's.
Well, I think
gonna-
enrollment to
it's
me
gonna-
includes kids that are here as sophomores
Right.
and decide to leave.
Right.
We should be looking at
True.
why they're leaving.
So
right? not
enrollment,
just-
yeah.
Not just
Enrollment
postgraduate.
reports and graduation rates, I think.
Yeah.
Not so much the
All right,
post-grad.
so then I apologize, Mrs. Griffin, I guess it does fit into this, but I'm glad that you brought up the point, because a lot of this data is not our job to be digging deep into that. That's Mr. Lucas's job and his 4 building administrators, his special ed administrator, to be looking at those things. And then it's our job to make sure that's happening. So that's why a lot of this is captured in here. is to make sure that it's happening and to make sure that we're getting reports on it. And if they're not digging deep into it, then it's our job to question why not.
Right, so if we have it as a goal,
Right.
which is our job, then we make sure
Right,
that.
which is action step 2.
Yeah,
Make sure we're getting updated information on that. Did we want to add that dates to receive updated achievement data, and in parentheses, the
can I go back one, just for
bullets
one?
above? Yep.
High needs population of students. I mean, I think a lot of that is encapsulated in access and, you know, some of our student service programs and whatnot. But there are other categories of high needs students that I did not mention.
Yeah, but I think, you know, for me, we have to be very, in my opinion, we're singling out a group of students, and that's not,
I think we're looking at all students. If we're looking at
then
AP
let's look at all
if we're
students
looking
and
at
break
AP
them down into categories.
We have. And if we're looking at AP scores, is that singling out a group of students? And if we're not looking at other high-need students, I think when we're doing this, we're trying not to leave out data that tells us about students. I'm not trying to single anybody out, but I'm certainly trying not to leave anybody out.
Right. Well, AP scores have their own test.
Correct.
They have their own
So
assessment system.
MCAS,
So we get that. We'd have to get that data from them.
and
So that's
that
the test.
data exists, for example, in MCAS, there's a whole
I'm
subcategory of that.
very
Okay.
familiar with that. Yes,
Right.
there's multiple subcategories. Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Burke.
So I think what you talk about, Pal, is even looking at universal screening data, when Mike and his team break that data down, are they looking at it by these various subgroups, right,
Correct.
in your enrollment data? And so to me, that goes into the process,
Yeah.
right? And we want to make sure that that's part of their process. I'm not sure that's part of our goal, but I think when you and I sit on that committee, we have to make sure that that's what they're doing with that data.
Correct.
You follow? Yeah.
I do.
All right, so action step 2, do we just want to, at the end of how it's going to be measured, where it says to receive updated achievement data, do we want to make sure that we are saying it's up top, or is that just implied? All those bullets.
I felt that it was implied, just when I
All
read
right.
this.
Everybody else in agreement with that?
Can I just need to make one point there.
Yep.
So under action step number 2 on goal 1, I think we put the district curriculum and accountability subcommittee in the wrong goal. I think that's supposed to be under action step 2, goal 2. Because that was my suggestion. That's where I meant for it to go. It should be in goal 2 under
Yep, I see what you're saying.
number 2.
Where was that again? Mr.
So
Burke?
just-
Under goal
Goal
1, action step 2, it says persons responsible. Right now, that includes district curriculum and accountability subcommittee. That should be struck from that particular action step and be put on goal 2, action step 2.
All right, say it one more time, because I'm trying to follow you and I
I
apologize.
gotcha.
All right. Goal 1
Yep,
currently has action step 2, and we've included the
Oh,
district
I see
curriculum
now.
and
Okay.
accountability subcommittee. I think that was misplaced. I think it belongs in goal 2, action step 2.
gotcha.
Which we're talking about right now. And that's why I was saying that's your job and my job to make sure these meetings are happening and they're,
You able to
I
capture
follow
that,
now.
Helen?
Good.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Burke.
Mr.
You are
Burke.
correct. All right, so back to goal 2. Action step 3, the school committee will receive an update on the district's process of using data, more effectively inform instructional improvements. So success in meeting this objective will be determined by the committee will receive a presentation on the district efforts to use data to identify all students who are not meeting grade level expectations and the support provided to the students in need to close the gap. The committee will learn how, it should be tiered instruction, spelling error. Tiered instruction is delivered K to 12 to support all students who experience academic and/or behavioral challenges. Any comments on that? Anything people want to? Four, the school committee, goal 2, number 4, action step 4, the school committee will receive updates on PD that targets the use of data to inform instruction. Success in meeting this objective will be determined by the delivery of presentations to update the school committee on how the district is using PD to more effectively use data to inform instruction. Any comments on those, on goal 2? Any additional? Goal 3, the school committee will ensure a safe environment for all district students and employees, measurable objectives, adequate funding to support the district's share of the school resource officer position in the budget, achieve safety initiatives proposed by the superintendent and his leadership team, and engage the community in safety initiatives through parent information sessions, media, etc. So action step 1, the school committee will identify a regular schedule of committee meetings to receive safety updates. Success in meeting this objective will be determined by the school committee's agreement to a regular schedule of meeting dates to receive school safety updates. Sounds very redundant. Action step 2, the school committee will support and promote safety initiatives through forums and in the media. Success in meeting this objective will be determined by the volume and effectiveness of communication efforts. And just stop me if. 3, the committee will review and provide feedback on proposed upgrades to existing security protocols and equipment. Success in meeting this objective will be determined by feedback from school committee members on the proposed upgrades to safety protocols and equipment. 4, the school committee will work with the Oxford Police Department to increase the school resource officer position. And we don't have anything to measure that.
I think your measurements could be FinCom proposing it. We'd have to put it in our budget. We'd have to propose it. We'd have to see that it goes through the town meeting process and that potentially it's voted upon.
You took the words right off of my paper.
That's
actually.
phenomenal. I'm
It's so
glad.
funny. I have all that written down as well. Because we can measure by that by, did we get our full-time SRO or did we not?
Yeah. So I guess those
How
are
to
more
get
action
there.
But the
steps.
steps, I think.
Right,
Val
how to
said.
get there. That's exactly what I had
Did we
to,
work
was
with
going to
the
FinCom.
police department, right? We
Right.
work with the police department to determine what's that resource sharing gonna look like.
Right,
We've gotta present it to
right.
FinCom, we've gotta,
I'm not so sure we haven't done that. Haven't we done that? Because I think,
I think we've
I don't want
talked
to
about
quote
it.
percentages, but I thought it was a shared cost between 2, and I'm wondering if maybe it could be a shared cost between 3.
I think
You
we
know, right
always,
now it's between us and the police department, but maybe if the town could.
but even if it stays between us and the police department, it needs to increase. I think that's,
Oh, absolutely, but it's where are we getting the money? That's always been our issue.
yep.
So if we could divvy it up third, and a third.
All right, so the school committee will work with the Oxford Police Department to increase the school resource officer position. Success in meeting this objective will be determined by,
So I think that our goal could actually be working with the police department and the finance committee / town, because they're willing to work with us for sure. They're willing to give us that full-time officer. They have a new school resource officer in training, hoping, I believe, to have that person be full-time. So we're working with them, we need to work with the other side as our goal.
I think success is that we hire somebody.
Right, success is yes or no,
Right.
exactly,
Yes.
that's the measurement.
We're talking about steps to get there, but right, the
so
measurable
meeting this
goals.
Right.
objective will be determined by the hiring
Right,
Full-time school resource officer, right?
of a
And then the
full-time
timeline
SRO.
could be present until May, which is
present until then.
when you
Present
would,
and ongoing.
yeah, but
I mean, the sooner the
ultimately,
better.
May, town meeting, our budget gets approved, and then you'd really know. So it would be up until May.
So maybe that's something that, through the superintendent, next safety meeting, you can, bring this topic up
Sure.
about what the steps are to, what Chief Sad thinks the steps are and what we need to do as a board. Is it to go to the FinCom, like some of the members are suggesting? Is there another avenue?
I can do that.
To maybe if
I
you
can
can
speak with
get-
them soon, yeah.
Yeah, what
I
if you
think we'd
could
have
do
to
that?
budget for it, honestly.
We have-
Right, well, that's what we'd have to
Yep.
find out. Is there grant money, like through the Chief Sad? Does he have any grant money in there? Or is it something that, to September's point, do we, bring in the town? I know it's all town money, right? But do we bring them in as a piece of that? Are they able to support it? So, yeah, so why don't we, I think PalCap should, just saying, right, the successes, do we have it, essentially. Mike can give us an update as to what our next steps may be to support that.
And the other thing that we could always do is, if you think it's a need, not obviously just for our district, but for all communities, which I think it is, you could do some type of, letter from our board to all other school committees saying that we're making a universal kind of, forget what the language is, but statement, or I don't know the exact word at this moment, but saying that there's a need for this, obviously, throughout the Commonwealth, and kind of put it out there that it's adopted by the budget above from, the state, that they fund this initiative. And we could go to our local representatives and our state reps and say, look, earmark money that comes to our budget, because every school deserves to have a school safety officer. So we could reach out to our own representatives.
All right. 4, equity. School committee will engage the school community in a reflective ongoing process to ensure equity for all students. Measurable objectives, ensure recruiting and hiring practices that attract and retain staff members who better reflect the demographics of the student body. Ensure the establishment of a PLC to collaboratively engage in regular DESE-sponsored professional development on issues of equity. Implement an equity action plan to review the curriculum and instructional resources and engage in the equity-focused reading and discussion. So the school committee action step 1 will receive regular updates on progress made by the district-wide equity committee. So success in meeting this objective will be determined by the school committee's agreement to a regular schedule of meeting dates to receive updates.
Every month.
Yep. Well, twice a month, essentially. Well, some of those
We only
meetings
have
when you
one
don't have
meeting a
them meetings,
month,
right? School committee will ensure the continued work of a PLC to collaboratively engage in regular DESE-sponsored professional development on issues of equity. So success in meeting this objective will be determined by the school committee's agreement to a regularly schedule of meeting dates to receive updates.
Ask a question.
Yes, Mr. Barrett.
Is it necessary to include DESE-sponsored professional development, or should it just say professional development?
Probably should just say professional development, yeah. So if we can, I'm in agreement with that, striking out DESE-sponsored, just professional development. So I guess my question too, this school committee will ensure the continued work of a PLC. Is that PLC considered your committee, September? Is that how we're interpreting it?
I've never heard it called PLC, Subcommittee of the School Committee, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
I
Was
see.
was that the intention of that step? Did you write that?
I did not write that step, no.
Because to me, a PLC is done in the schools
Yeah.
with a group there. What you're doing is different, so I'm not
Right.
sure what we meant.
Right, I
What
don't
were we
think
going
I,
for?
That's
I
what I
definitely
asked.
didn't put, I don't know what
I
that.
think a PLC would be like building-based
Right. Or even district-wide.
or district-based.
But not a school committee one.
So that's what I'm saying,
So
we'll,
to me, that should probably be changed to the DEI committee,
Subcommittee.
subcommittee, right?
And just
So-
for the record, the MASC conference that's coming up has a lot of DEI this time around. So if anybody has any availability, that would be great.
so then how are we gonna, so the school committee will ensure the continued work of the DEI subcommittee to collaboratively engage in regular professional development on issues of equity? But so
I'm
we're
not
not
sure that's
on-
what you're
Well,
looking for either.
no,
doesn't
I,
work there.
I can't really tell the curriculum people what to do, but Tara Trainer is on the DEI subcommittee, and she definitely has gathered information from groups of people who have come in to speak to our committee, and has, is aware, certainly, and, I don't know everything that's planned and what goes on in all of those, but I know that it is definitely embedded in a lot of the trainings.
So can I ask, Mike, is the district looking at having a regular PLC that meets to discuss?
We have not
Equity
formally,
inclusion.
but we do include it in a lot of stuff that we're doing. So,
Like last year, you had a few initiatives. I don't know.
our
if it was
administrative team
administratives.
read our central office and our principals and assistant principals read Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain by Zaretta Hammond together, shared that with faculty. We had a book reading group, which would be a PLC, I guess, that did it, of teachers that also took that on. So we have done some work around that. And we've had guest speakers at administrative meetings and at faculty meetings to address this as well.
So would it make more sense that the school committee will ensure that the district continues to offer
Sponsor,
regular professional development on issues
Yeah.
of equity?
Yes.
Okay.
offer, sponsor.
Yeah.
And this is totally separate, but is PDPs awarded for those that attend? Is there something that
Should be.
entices people? Because, I mean, it can't be a requirement, right? That people have to attend, but it would be great if there was something that people left with. And I know that people have to have so many PDPs to recertify, for example, for, ELL and.
No, they should be
Yeah.
getting them for those, any
Yeah.
trainings.
I
that
just
they
didn't
do.
know.
Yeah.
That's why I asked the
Oh, right,
question.
no, it's a good question, they
Absolutely.
should
'Cause,
be.
like-
Yeah,
That, I would assume that's Tara Trainer's
Yep.
department?
yes.
Because if it comes with that, wow,
Yeah, no, it's a win-win.
that would, yeah.
So did you capture that one as well, Helen? All right, thank you.
Of course she did.
3, the committee will engage in equity-focused readings and discussions. So that's saying that we will engage in equity-focused readings and discussions. Success in meeting this objective will be determined by the successful selection of an equity-focused text, which the committee will read and have a discussion on. And I don't know if this was just copy and pasted from the last one, that maybe we all just missed, because it has the winter of 21-22 timeline, which is wrong.
So I guess my thought would be to strike that, if that's okay
I'm
with
in
everybody,
agreement with
because
striking number 3, because,
Oh, striking it.
yeah,
Well, you don't want to do some readings on equity and have
I
discussions?
do, but I don't know that we can all get together to discuss them, because then we have a quorum.
Could we not do some independent reading? Could we not have something that we bring to the table under our our members forum at the end, where if you're reading something that is about equity that you think is important, like, can we just take an initiative here where we all bring something to the table and share it publicly? And we could speak to it and say, wow, this is something that stuck out to me. And this is something that I think is, could be meaningful for a future discussion as a committee. And if we agree to that, then we build something in, or we ask for an agenda item to be on it. But I think we could share things with each other and enlighten each other. Because you have a whole wealth of knowledge that I don't have, right?
I know, however, I
I know
also
you
don't
know.
have all the hours in my day that you appear to have.
Yes, you
So,
do. Trust me, if I have time, you have time.
I can't be given any required readings, period. I do feel like I share information
Yeah.
when I give my reports for different groups and different things and initiatives and things that have come to light to our group. Like I said, I can't be forced to do any readings and report. I just can't. I don't know that it's fair to ask other members to do that too. And as I said, talking about it publicly is great, but I don't know that it's effective.
yeah,
I think-
I don't think that Pal's implying that, I think we're gonna get away from the actual required reading, but I think what she's saying is sharing in members' forum, if a member wants to share something that has resonated with them, or something they've read, or something, and just
Oh.
bring it up,
Based on
talk
equity.
about it.
You know,
But based on equity.
Yeah, and talk about it, and then maybe it becomes a future topic that we want to bring up in a full discussion, or maybe that member offers something to, something for us to read if we're so inclined.
I think to me, that's just good practice. That's not
Right.
a school.
Well, that's what I mean, so I think
Right.
that's what we mean. We're gonna strike
Certainly
the way
something
3
we're all
was
doing any
written.
topic.
I think it's good practice, but if you make it a goal, then it doesn't just become good practice, you're implementing the good practice. I think sometimes not having it set as a goal doesn't help us.
So how does that goal
Make that
read?
step.
What is the?
The committee will engage in equity-focused research and bring forth items for future discussion under members' forum. Like, for example, a hot, agenda, like a hot item right now out there is oh gosh, help me, restorative justice in schools, right? I don't know how our schools are rolling out things. I don't know necessarily if that's the practice these days that's happening. But I know that that's something that I've had to read a lot about. And there's new practices, for example, that are happening in education. Now, if I bring that up as a topic and I present some information about both sides, then I've just educated not only myself, but other members of this committee and hopefully our community. And then if it's something that we're like, you know what? Wow, this is interesting. This is something that really should be talked about. Then we can ask for a future agenda item. And it could be about equity, because a lot of that is all about like how students were treated in schools and the reason why that new practice is emerging, right? So we're not singling out certain categories of people in a way that used to be disciplined in a certain way. And that would probably help us peel back some layers and get into some deep, meaningful conversations that could drive this committee to make some more change. Or to at least be more aware of what's happening here.
Yeah. Again, I'm trying to, in my head, figure out how does that sound as a goal? So if we sit down at the end of the year and I haven't brought anything forward, have I failed the goal?
But maybe you didn't bring something forward, but maybe you participated when somebody did bring something forward. You know what I mean?
No, I do.
You might not be the person that brings something forward, but you might be the person that continues to research it after the fact. I don't know. Yeah.
September?
Sorry.
Vice Chair acknowledged you.
Yeah, I'm just
Thank
trying
you,
to
Vice
take
Chair, I
notes.
appreciate
Yeah.
that.
He's doing a good job.
So I think that what Corey said is it is good practice for
Yeah.
us to be well-read on these equity, the restorative justice, which I actually practiced at Educare this summer, which was wonderful. But again, as I read this goal, being a goal and reading selection and then discussion schedule is driving me in a certain way. I live this DEI life pretty much every day,
Yeah.
every month for sure.
Yeah.
I just don't know that this should be a goal. I feel like the DEI subcommittee is working on the equity piece. I report on it every month. We had a large group. We're starting from scratch, as you know, working really hard to diversify our membership, which I'm struggling with. But I just don't know that that's a school committee goal. The goal was to establish the committee and to have the committee do the work and come back and report. And I do appreciate the readings, and I do videos and readings, but readings of my choosing from what I see and hear what's going on here. So I guess I just,
Right,
I guess-
so, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because, each one of us represents a different background with different information. I don't know how much of your committee last year looked at equity for students, for example, with disabilities. Was there any discussion there? There's so many populations and places to capture that sometimes we have our own focus and lens and we miss others. But if we are, because this is why we have this committee, if we have opportunities to bring forth something for some type of discussion, we never have an opportunity to all be together outside of these meetings. So if we want to actually have an equity goal where we're all participating, not just occasionally in a subcommittee, then this is a great way to do it. But again, it's just a proposal. I'm not saying it has to be
I think
done.
you've got two different things going on here. So the whole purpose of subcommittees is for two members to, be part of that and bring back to the board to report out. So I think it's really important when we have these meetings that we bring back that detailed information. If there are things that you want discussed at a certain subcommittee, then that comes through me, and I can relay that to the subcommittee chairs. So we can get that out there. But to your point, and what I would like to propose, just throw out there, is, and I like where you went with that, like members forum just sometimes just becomes, we're just going through the motions at the end, respectfully, because some days we're here late. But I think what I would like to do is plant that seed that you just planted and say, hey, listen, if you have something that you've learned or something that you want to share out with the committee, great time to do that. And then if it's something like, you talked about restorative justice, if we that's something that resonates with a few of us. Now we say, hey, you know what, in a future meeting, could we have, you know, a brief presentation? Or we want to have one of the principals who might be comfortable come talk about it, and then we start a discussion. But I really like where you went with that by saying, hey, let's have members forum be an area where we can educate each other, right? And then maybe dig deeper. So that's where I would like to leave that, almost like as like a practice that, you know, individual members who are comfortable, you know, maybe you and I and Corey may be more comfortable than you know, September or Molly, but maybe they'll, you know what I mean? So I like that. That was a really, really good idea to add to members forum. I just don't know, to like Corey's point, I don't know if we need to embed it in here. Because I think if there's things within any committee, we can drive that through the two members that are on those committees.
So I'm gonna go back then,
Yeah.
all right? Just to make a point.
Yeah?
So, we have a safety committee. We
Yep.
have a data district curriculum committee.
Yep.
So if those committees are just doing those things and we drive everything just through those committees, why have those goals?
Why have what?
Those goals that we just proposed.
Because we.
I was just trying to make the argument, because you said,
But to your point earlier, all five of us can't meet and discuss all of this. So we have to rely on our committee members
I know,
to bring that information back to us. So if there's something on safety that you're unclear of or you want more clarification, then that comes through me, because I'm on that committee. If there's something I want, if I say, hey, listen, I really hope I want you guys to zone in on this piece of data with now that MCAS stuff is coming out soon, I can drive that to the chair.
no, I get that, and I get how
Right.
that process works.
Yeah.
But I guess the point of having goals where we all work on them together collaboratively is so we're all working together on them collaboratively. And I think that's why we have a goal on safety, even though we have a safety subcommittee, and we have a goal on data, and we had a goal on equity that somebody proposed, right? That they brought forward. And I was just trying to give some feedback here, because it was written here.
Right, but
That would be a way
We're
to
not
do it.
striking the goal on
Right.
equity. We're still
No,
gonna have a goal.
no,
on
I
equity.
know.
We're just talking about that one action step.
No, I know.
But to your
I-
point,
Just
point
trying
of.
to make that action step work, because somebody put it there, and
Well,
I thought
right.
it was a good one.
I think it was,
Right,
I think it was a copy and
Yeah,
paste
it
from
was a
another
copy
district.
too.
to be
But
honest with you.
to your point, we talk about stakeholders, and we talk about the different systems within the school system, right? And we have to rely and have faith that those systems and those people within those committees are doing their job, because we can't sit here and do it all. We can be a part of that. We're part of those stakeholders. So to your point of why have goals, because we have to trust that part of our committee is doing their part in their committees and then bringing it back to us. And if they're not, then as the chairman, I think that's probably my responsibility to ensure it happens. Because you're right, if we're all doing little different subcommittees, then we shouldn't have any goals, because we really can't have universal goals. We have universal goals as the school committee, but then pockets of our committee need to represent those and bring it back to us. And then if any member has concerns about what's happening, then we need to bring that to the chairs of those committees. So that's why the subcommittees are really big pieces of a school committee, because that's where a lot of that interaction with stakeholders gets done.
And then when we have it as a goal, we're making sure it gets done, because it's our goal.
Well, I
So
can
that's-
tell you this, not every goal on here is gonna get done.
But we have to, exactly, right?
And
Everybody
there's no
said.
penalty, honestly, there's
everybody
no
said-
penalty if it doesn't get done.
But everybody sets goals to reach, and if you don't set them, you don't reach. And I think it's good that we're actually trying to make a reach.
Correct, but you evaluate your goals and measure was their growth.
Absolutely.
Because I know when I evaluate teachers on their goals, it's making progress, some progress, no progress, significant progress, met. That's really what it's about, is establishing goals and then trying to, obviously meet them. But for me, as long as there's progress, and then you can discuss that progress, I don't know, my voice just cracked, but you can discuss that progress, and then you can reflect on that progress too. What do we need to do different? What can we change? Yes.
And just on that same note, one of the things you said, Mrs. Griffin, there's definitely a population that, through a conversation randomly about a month ago, I was like, wow, look at that. We didn't even look at that population.
Right.
It wasn't brought forward by any of my 23 committee members. So I have reached out trying to get representation from that group or from someone from that group. So again, I'm not saying we've done perfect, and I've said right along, this is a marathon. This
Absolutely.
equity and inclusion and diversity, we really need to, it is baby steps, and we've had, you know, I hate to say significant progress, but I feel like in some areas we really
absolutely.
have, and in other areas we haven't even begun. So, start of our second year, I feel like we're in a pretty good place. And I would welcome any, you know, if you have thoughts and ideas through Dave, or even she can talk to me with thoughts,
We
right?
can all
As long
talk
as
to
it's
each other, and I think we all do.
one-on-one. Right. And I think it's important if you have ideas and thoughts that my committee probably or maybe hasn't thought of, looked into, or if you think, you know, we have too much time with one group, sometimes the groups are those who are able to come, willing to come and show up. They get a little more of our time, but we are definitely making
All right.
progress.
All right, so let me steer us back to goal 4, action step 3, we were gonna strike.
That was my thought,
Correct.
yes. But I don't know if everyone agrees.
It seemed like we were in agreement. Is there any,
Whatever pleases the committee, it's fine with me.
so we'll move to 4, which I have now changed to 3. The committee will ensure improved practices for recruiting and hiring staff that better reflect the student body's demographics. So success in meeting this objective will be determined by the school committee's agreement to a regularly scheduled meeting dates to receive updates. I mean, I have a little bit of an issue with this one, just because, I mean, I don't know how we ensure improved practices recruiting and hiring staff that better reflect the student body's demographics. I'm not sure
That's a tough one.
where we all land on that. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're looking for the most qualified people in the positions we are looking to hire. I don't know. Well, I guess, yeah, Mr.
I'll just
Burke,
talk about
please.
where this one came from, obviously, because it came from my district. It was more looking to expand our search, right? So that we have more candidates that do reflect the demographics of our student body.
Okay.
Does not mean that we are preferentially hiring anybody. We're still looking for the best candidate. But we're looking to broaden the candidates that do come in and sit in front of us in those interviews.
And how did you guys accomplish that? Like, what are the steps to accomplish that?
There was a lot of communication with some other districts. We got involved in a hiring fair out in Milford that had brought in a whole bunch of districts that attended that. It was an all-day Saturday hiring fair, and we looked at how we, gosh, I can't think right now, how we put out our
Yeah.
postings.
So you kind of-
what other avenues we could use to put out our postings besides just school spring and, you know, the normals. So it was really more, that goal was more focused on broadening the search,
Okay.
but the hiring still came down to who's the best person to put in front of our students.
So what if we did something like the committee will receive updates on practices for recruiting and hiring staff? That, like, if we put some sort of language in there that just talks about we get updates, like what is the hiring process? What are you doing? Are you just using school spring only? Have you attended these job fairs? Have you looked at other ways to attract different candidates? You know, we're struggling to find people. Is there another way? Have we made connections with Worcester State or Clark or, you know, those types of things? So maybe if we get, the committee will, you know, receive updates regarding practices for recruiting and hiring staff.
So again, because this is under an equity goal.
Equity, right?
The question is,
Yeah,
do we
well, how
want
does
to
it-
make that our goal to
That's true.
change the demographic of our staff?
I think we're pretty diverse, and I think we're growing in our diversity.
And that's a great point, because I could tell you, I don't know how diverse we are here.
Yeah,
as a
I mean, I'm
staff.
sure,
So that's,
I'm sure everywhere can be more diverse. But I think we're making areas of growth in that.
so again, this was a copy and paste, so if we don't feel this is needed in Oxford, then this is not something that I'm gonna hang my hat on.
Right. And I think too, Corey, to your point, you had said it kind of feels awkward the way it was worded, because we're really not trying to single out
Yep.
any kind of groups or exclude any other groups.
Correct.
We want the best candidate.
All right,
I
so
think
we're in
we
agreement to
get rid of
strike out that.
Yep.
So 3 and 4 from the current goal 4, action steps 3 and 4 have been stricken. So now I'm gonna go down to 5, and change that to 3. The committee will ensure the implementation of an equity action plan to review the curriculum and instructional resources. And success in meeting this objective will be determined by the successful implementation of an equity action plan with clear objectives and outcomes. And again, this has to be a copy and paste because May of '22 has come by. So this is something, I mean, I don't even know if we have in the district currently.
I think our district has been working on that, and I think it's an initiative that is going through the whole state. It's a requirement
Right.
that everybody looks at their text for bias and for, you know, equity. So it's not something that,
So I would suggest
So-
rewording that,
Yeah, that's what I was just
right,
doing.
to say that the committee will
Receive.
support.
support a review of current curriculum and instructional resources within an equity lens. And I think you could include in persons responsible both the District Curriculum and Accountability Committee and the DEI Subcommittee, those two subcommittees.
And I think you can put the curriculum coordinator with the
Oh, yeah.
superintendent.
Yes, thank you.
So do you wanna, can you capture that again?
Probably not, but I can try. Helen
I have
could
it-
probably capture
I
it.
had a little more, I had it more simplistic, but did you capture it, Ellen?
I think I have it. Yep. The committee will support the review of curriculum and instructional resources under an equity lens, is what we have.
That makes sense. Makes sense to me.
And then success in meeting this objective will be determined by the successful implementation of the equity action plan?
Well, I don't think we want to call it an equity action plan because that's not what we're doing, but I think those subcommittees will probably have to, this is probably more than a one-year plan,
Yeah.
right? To start reviewing the curriculum and saying,
Right.
so,
Implementation of,
so success in meeting this objective will be determined by,
How about, doing an audit of all of our instructional resources, like our major texts. Teachers could go through, you know, it doesn't have to be a big thing, but there could be, all right, this text was purchased in this year and this year. That was before this equity initiative came forth from the state, so obviously textbook publishers were not looking at their lenses of instructional material that way. So we know that all that material was probably not written in a way that needed to be written in that way, so we were meeting that lens. And then we could say, okay, we adopted all these materials after this date, and hopefully they were purchased with that, and then we could reach out to the publishers at least and say, yes, they were, or no, they weren't.
what I want to be careful of is that we're not creating a goal for Mike that he hasn't planned on for this year.
I'm sure,
I think
hold on, let Corey finish.
as a committee,
yeah,
what I think our job should be is in this year, start that process of, we need to set Mike, does the district already have a regular review cycle for the curriculum?
It depends on the building, but for the most part, yes. We also, the change in the state, I think that Ms. Griffin was referring to, going forward, any new curriculum that's brought in that a teacher's gonna use, whether it's a magazine, a video, whatever, has to go through our equity sheets, there are forms to fill out.
Yeah.
Has to be approved by the teacher has to fill that out, be approved by the building principal, and then Tara as well. So anything that's new that coming in has to go through an equity lens already.
Okay.
The stuff that's being done before, that we already inherited, we'd have to look at that on a case-by-case basis.
So I think it would be our job to say, we want to establish that review process, right? We want to establish a review process that you're starting to look
Right.
at the material you already have.
That we currently have.
Right.
I don't think it's fair for us to say, you're going to review all that this year,
Right,
because you've got all the other things you've already
Right.
set as goals. but-
right.
All right, so should we ask Helen again to just capture the new number 3, so that then we can figure out how to measure that.
I'm sure you could also just go to the state and what they require and use that to support your goal. Because it's a requirement. And I'm sure they have a timeline, probably.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm
Yeah.
sure they do. I'm
Right.
guessing with the state, it's probably a 5-year.
All right, let's let Helen read this so that we can figure out
We've been
Sorry.
working on it for
Go ahead.
years, so.
next piece.
I've got the committee will support the establishment of a review process for curriculum and instructional resources, under an equity lens, and I can reword that so it reads better, but that's the gist of it.
So success in meeting that objective will be determined by what, Mr. Burke?
The establishment of a curriculum and instructional resource review timeline.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a process, because you've already got a
Right.
process for reviewing your curriculum.
Right.
We need to say, we're gonna establish.
We need to set a timeline that we're going to do it for
everything you
every building and
currently
every
have.
school,
You
right?
don't have to worry about anything that's being
So with the
purchased.
timeline and with updates?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know, does everybody know about this process?
Staff-wise or?
The new process going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's new
Yes.
to me, I
It's
haven't
been
heard
shared
about
with
it.
our staff, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
it'd be great to get an update on that.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah, is that something we could add for a future meeting, maybe next meeting? Get an update on that
I
process?
could go under that, cool.
Yep. All right, and the last, which would be the new number 4 potentially, is the district will make gains in access and equity for all students. How are we gonna measure that? Student data will be regularly monitored by the district staff and school committee to ensure that policies are refined, practices are improved, and additional programs and support are advocated for to cultivate student growth and achievement, to evaluate and review inclusive classroom and program practices to ensure our high-needs students are fully accessing the curriculum. The district will promote advanced and accelerated programs to underrepresented subgroups to ensure equity, advocate, support, and foster post-secondary career and educational pathways. So comments or questions?
Yeah, the district will promote advanced and accelerated programs to, how about all students to ensure equity?
Yeah.
Yep, good with that. To all students to ensure equity, so we're gonna strike underrepresented subgroups.
I feel like the first bullet there is repetitive with our data goal. And I'm fine leaving it in, but I think we've already covered the fact.
Well, it
that
talks about
we're-
policies. And we don't have a goal that mentions policies are refined and practices are improved. But I think policy is a big thing that drives accountability.
Yep.
Yep, and I would just add
I agree, that's
ongoing
not
as
in
the
that other one.
timeline for that, Helen.
So if we really wanna,
Yep, that's a good point. It's not in that
and if
data
we
goal.
have policies that can help us with additional programming and supports,
All right, so there are, some adjustments, some tweaks. We can either hold the vote until we get
Yeah, why don't you hold the
Why
vote?
don't we hold the
I'll
vote?
make the changes in a different
Make the
color, and I'll bring
changes.
it back to the next meeting.
yeah,
can I go back one more time?
yep, to whereabouts?
To the second bullet in 4, to evaluate and review inclusive classrooms and program practices to ensure, it says high-need students are fully accessing the curriculum. I think it should say all students again.
Oh, sorry, goal 4, right.
I just don't, I mean, this is just me. I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
it's,
'cause
I don't
it's-
want to call out one group of students.
No, I
think
had
our
mentioned that
lens should
earlier, I
be-
agree. To ensure
You
all
did.
students. So we're striking out our high-need students,
Right,
so all students.
because
yep.
if we're focusing on all of our students, we're encapsulating
No,
them and
great
everybody
point.
else.
No, good catch, thank you. So, is this something that when you make these edits, Helen, is this something that we can see, you can share with all of us? Because then I would ask people to take some time between now and the next meeting, just to look at it again. And if you have any comments, just email Helen and I separately, and we can make adjustments. Well, no, we can add it to what we just so that our conversation next time doesn't have to go, if there's anything that strikes you when you read it, please give me a heads up and Helen a heads up so we can add it to our discussion. No, actually, that's not even gonna make sense, is it? Just when you make the edits, if you could share it with us.
Yeah.
So people can read it ahead of time. Okay. So we will hold the vote on our goals till our next meeting. School council meeting reports, create consistent dialogue. Is this something that I talked about maybe last time? All right. So we have the calendar, or somebody created a calendar for,
Helen did a Google Doc.
okay.
I believe I'm the only-
The admins haven't all gone in yet and filled it in, but I know they
Teaching
weren't.
skill in this form, some of us have a
Right.
job teaching and we can't be here.
So really what one of our goals
Leading a building.
this year is to have us attend school council meetings. So I guess what we needed to discuss tonight was really what are we looking for as far as our contribution to those meetings? So that when we attend, we kind of have a template. Here's like the 3 things that we're looking to see in these meetings, or these are the things we want to contribute. I think just want to be consistent, is that, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
it doesn't look different at different council meetings.
I was under the impression that we were there as an observer, not running an agenda. That we were there to hear about what's going on in their schools, where maybe we're not doing our thing, maybe policy committee, maybe DEI. I didn't think we were going in with any sort of agenda.
Well, no, I wasn't saying an agenda, but if we
Well, you said
want.
goals, that we want to be consistent. I thought, my impression was that we would go to the meeting and basically come back and report. Had the opportunity to go to
Right,
this.
but what are we reporting on? That's what I want to be consistent with, because one of us could come back and report on, it was a sunny day and we had fun and we talked. And then somebody else could come back and say, hey, here's the things I saw. We were looking at this, we're looking at that. Well, that's what I mean. Do we want to have just themes that we want to bring back? So when we report back, we're reporting back on A, B, C, we're reporting on A, B. That's all I was looking for, just consistency. And the example obviously was very, loose and light, so I apologize, but yes.
I think it's not up to us to do the reporting. I think it's really the principals, and it's their job to give us continuous updates on what they're doing with their school councils, because that's their responsibility. I think it's helpful if maybe we go, so we're just there, and some school councils do have a school committee member be part of the council, so they're participating. Or the parents just step up and run for that position and, are elected to participate. I think the biggest thing for why I've always wanted to have some more involvement with school councils was just to make sure that they were happening. Because for several years, they weren't, and it's a law.
It's the law, right. But
And I just want to make sure that it's happening, because that's how you make effective change in your school, and you discuss things like schedule changes or report card changes or big initiatives or your SIPs. That's how your SIP is created every year. It's through those school council
Well,
meetings.
that's the major objective for those.
Right.
So again, for me, it goes to, are we just checking off a box to make sure they did their 4 meetings a year, or 5 meetings, whatever the law is, I believe it's 4, maybe 5. Or do we want to see what the application of it, what's happening in the meetings, what are we looking for? I mean, we see SIPs in June, do we want to see how the process is? Do we want to hear, what are we looking for? I guess if we just want to have it be a task that we go and we check off that we were there, if that pleases the committee, great. I'm of the mindset that we should have like a little, I don't know, just something that we're looking for. So when I go in and do evaluations of teachers, we talk about, all right, here's the 4 things we're looking for. Everything's evaluative, but here's some of the things so that we know, so that when we report back, we can give some feedback. Yes, Ms. Cook.
I quite honestly have no idea what's discussed at those meetings. So if they could come back and just tell us if they're allowed to, what they even talk about. Because I know like parents are supposed to be on it, there's some students, and then like who else is included in this? And,
Well, they're all public meetings.
Okay.
Anybody can show up at any of these. They're
Okay.
posted, they're public meetings.
well, I mean, if they could just tell us what was talked about.
I mean, I guess as a committee, I guess the question I have for the four of you is, what are we looking for? Like, I know what I'm looking for at these meetings. What are you all looking for? Do we not want this to be even something we do? Yes.
So I guess I'm more in line with Mrs. Griffin, and I further will say, I feel like part of what my thought was in being there is to show that we're here. We're all here in this together. We're all working together. So what is it that you guys need? What is it that you're talking about? What is your focus? Because I think Chapey's focus and the high school focus have nothing in common, right? We're talking about completely different populations. School improvement plans would be different, except for safety and building and that kind of thing. But I don't feel like it's really for us to go in and have any kind of agenda. And I don't even know, about the reporting back. Like, I went to the meeting and they talked about this, that, and the other thing. It's not for me to decide. That's their committee. And I was on your OMSAC, so I know what goes on there. We're not driving their goals. This is a goal of ours, I guess, sort of kind of to check the box, but also for me to check in and be more present with just more people.
Yeah, but so again, you keep referring to agenda, I'm not for me,
You sort of
as
are.
one committee member out of 5, I'm not looking for an agenda. What I'm looking for is a focus. So if one of the focuses, yes, I see you, Mrs. Griffin, I'll be right with you. If one of the focuses, yeah, I saw it. If one of the focuses is, all right, what kind of work did they do on the SIP today? Like, and you could feedback, yeah, today we talked about, focusing on, I don't know, a certain subset of, or a certain focus on a math. Like, math is a struggle with the scores here, so they really want to focus on, working on improving the 5th grade, whatever the standard is, because they're seeing that that's a really high need in this building, because they're really not scoring well. So maybe that's something that they've built into the SIP. So that maybe that's one thing we focus on, report back on the SIP. Then maybe another category is we focus on need. Here's some things that came up in their discussions. They're really looking for this need. And maybe it's just those two things. But just to have an idea of what we're looking for. Because there's other districts, like I have a school committee member that comes to all of our SIPs, and then they report back out at school committee meeting. I don't know what they say. I don't know what their direction is. If I watch it, I'll see it, but, so if we have a focus that we come back to and that's all I'm looking for. And if the committee disagrees, then you disagree. But maybe it's just those two themes. What kind of work did they do on the SIP? What are their needs? Yes, Mrs. Griffin, you had your hand.
I was just thinking, like, we could attend, like Mrs. Forbes said, and just, be there to be an ear and moral support. But if we wanted to all bring something in common, we could bring our goals. And we could say, these are the goals of the school committee. Because ultimately what happens is we're waiting for a district improvement plan, which drives the school improvement plans, and they all work together. So I know you, Mrs. Forbes, said that each school is different and each school has their own thing, but that's the problem that we used to have, that every school was their own silo. We have to have common initiatives and common threads through the whole entire district that ties together, so our kids have, that fabric, honestly, that makes us the district that we need to be. And I think that comes from us driving our goals and the district improvement plan happening, and then the school improvement plans will follow suit. And the teachers honestly have to have all those discussions with their principal of what their needs are in their school, and then that goes to the school improvement plan through the table, through those school councils, And the principal presents what the teachers are saying is the need. And the parents listen, and then they share their perspective, and then we might share a perspective, and then other community members that are key stakeholders that want to come and chime in, share their perspective, and that's how we develop meaningful school improvement plans. There's just this big process that needs to take place. I think us just kind of being there is more the accountability piece and making sure that the process happens. And I think that's probably why I proposed, I think I kind of said it in the past, that I'd like to see us kind of participate in that, just for the accountability piece.
But I think it has to, I don't want the councils to think we're coming there to babysit, like.
No, moral support, I just said moral.
Either. That's the slippery slope. I don't want them to think we're there
I
to
don't- I
supervise
think
either.
No, but our
Oh my
job,
gosh.
if, that's why I want to
principal.
establish a consistent message as to why we're there. We're there
We're
to
gonna get
hear-
to know the council, to find out what you do, what your, okay,
we
use
know
the
what
words,
they're
what your
supposed-
needs are.
We know what they do, so.
I know
again,
what they're
that's why-
supposed to do. We're just there to see what they're doing. Like
think
to
we could
be
bring
a
back
part
the
of their
agenda.
process.
I think we're all saying the same thing, I just think we're missing it. Yes, that's what we're there for, but what are we bringing back here?
I don't think we really have to bring it back, Mr. Canacchioli. Honestly, I think that if we want somebody to bring it back, the person that brings it back is the principal, because it's the principal who leads those committees. I think we're just there as moral support, and we're there to answer any
Well,
questions.
then,
for
if
key
we're there for
stakeholders.
moral support, then I think we need to reconsider going, because then, all of our time is very valuable, so if we're not there, if there's
Theirs
there's
is
no
too.
meaning to why we're there, then why are we going?
Because we can give the lens of how the school committee supports the work that they're doing. Ultimately, as a school committee, we work as a body to drive policy, so maybe there's policies in their building that need to be discussed. We are there to discuss budgetary needs. Maybe there's some budgetary items that they want to discuss. We have our lens in the work that we do. We have our goals again, and we can just listen. And then ultimately, I think it's up to the principals to report back. But we're just there, again, when I say moral support, I mean that we're all a team, we all work together, and we are just a little tiny fraction of that puzzle. Without all of us, we can't do this. Like, I think that's Mr. Lucas's slogan there, right? Remind me, what's the catchphrase? All
hands on deck.
All hands on deck,
All hands
right?
on deck.
So, like, yes, our time is essential. We are all super busy. I think the point behind it was like, if we could just make it and we're all there a little bit, then we're more present than we've ever been.
And
Right,
that
but
was
to
my
your point,
understanding.
That's all.
to your point earlier, we don't have time as 5 people to get together and talk until we're here.
Right.
So if somebody goes to, if we go to these council meetings and we have a focus, we're gonna hear about the SIP, we'll contribute what we can, we'll hear about needs, and then we'll come back. Did you know that at Clara Barton, they need A, B, and C? Oh, no, we didn't know that.
I like
So
your
if there's
proposal of
just
needs.
2 themes,
Okay.
just to give us something to drive
All right.
what we're doing there. But again, it sounds like 2 people just
No,
wanna
I like
go
what
there
you're
just to
saying.
hang out, which is fine. Again,
Oh, yeah.
probably the
Another
wrong way to
time.
say that, but you just want to be there for moral support, if that's what we're there for. But for me as a committee member, I want more than that.
I think we're always advocating for people's needs.
Let's hear what Mr. Burke has to
Yes,
say.
Mr.
Please.
Burr.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Say the same thing, man.
To me, I just want us to be careful that we don't start looking like we're meddling. I think Pal has a great point. It's the principal's job to come and say, this is what I'm working on with my school council, right? I think if they need us there if we're there and they want to say, hey, how do we make this happen? What is it we do if we're looking for more money or budgetary things, like Pal had said, as a resource, that's great. I worry about us coming back and reporting on certain things, because then I think to the principals, that looks like, I gotta make sure I do this and this when Corey's sitting here, because he's gonna go back and report to the committee, this is what we did or did not do, and it almost feels evaluative to me, right? Which is not our job. I think if we wanna try and make a commitment to be there, to be a resource to them, and then if we were come back and again, in that members forum piece, say, hey, listen, I sat at OMSAC yesterday, and they're doing some great work on this, this, and this, or they have some concerns about this, this, and this, I think that's great. But I think if we get too narrowed down and say, these are the things we're looking for, that feels to me like we're evaluating them.
Yeah, no, I totally,
think we gotta be
no,
careful
you make,
about that.
you make valid points.
And I'm not sure how I'm gonna get to those, because they all happen during my work.
Well, same
know.
here.
You did,
But
right?
the,
Location.
but the point but to the point the principals come back and report to us on school council reports. Well, we try to keep them out of these meetings because their time is valuable. So the time we hear about what happens at their school council meetings is June. So at that point, we don't know what the needs are. Budget starts happening in a month or 2. So again, I think, I agree with you, because it's a fine line to feel like what they say is gonna be reported back. I mean, I have that feeling when the school committee members sitting in my meeting,
Right.
to be careful what I say.
Yeah.
But that's why if the focus is just on SIP and what their needs are, I mean, I think it's helpful, right? That would be the focus. But I agree with you, because it can be a
I just want to be
fine
careful.
line. No, no, it's a
little
valid
slippery to
point,
me.
valid point, yes.
So, in past, and you probably were on the other side of the table, you probably remember this. The SIPs were discussed multiple times throughout the year. It wasn't just in June. It was, okay, how are they being developed, quarterly? And sometimes I remember being a member out there in the audience way before I was ever on this side of the table and listening. And sometimes it was like, okay, this is really meaty stuff. Where I remember people sitting here saying, we don't have much going on here, or this sounds just like I heard the year before, So we could ask for more presentations to happen. But again, I don't want to make work for people, but I think it's maybe 3 times a year would be appropriate to say, okay, you had a meeting or two under your belt, any updates that you want to share from school council? And when the principals come and do their updates, they can just give a little school council update. If we can attend, I just think it's a nice gesture that we're there for support.
Is that the pleasure of the committee?
That was my understanding, I guess, more so.
Okay, well, that's.
My understanding,
that's the
as
pleasure of the
opposed to
board,
my
then
pleasure.
That's what it is. We will just be there to be supportive.
And report back on great things that are happening, like Mr. Burke said. It's not that we can't during members forum, hey, I got to go to the Clara Barton School Advisory Council, and they're working on this, and I didn't know that, whatever.
But the fine line of still is going to be there, whether we just go there and sit without really having a focus or not. There's still gonna be that, what's gonna be said back at a meeting.
It's always like that. Whenever we're present anywhere, my friend, this is just the way it works.
Well, I mean, again, well, see, to me, then that's a culture of, like, it shouldn't be I gotcha.
No, I don't
We're all in
think
this
that- no one's
together.
ever trying to be a- I
No,
gotcha.
I'm not saying you did. I'm saying the mindset, like, in fact, I just had the conversation with the staff in our school recently. Like, the Ed Eval tool is not an I gotcha tool. It's a tool that's used to work on improving teaching and learning and outcomes. And if we're all together in that, right, that's what the mindset needs to be here. Our presence at the school council meetings is not to micromanage. It's there to hear what you're doing and hear what your needs are, and then reporting back to the committee. That's really what it's about. So if we have, and that's why I just wanted to, if we were gonna do it as individuals, that we all had a mindset of being on that page together, so that the mindset out there is that, oh, that's why they're here. But if we feel like we're just gonna go there and just be part of, that's fine. I'm
So,
fine with that.
sorry, how about if we just start going there and see what happens? It's a
Sounds
goal of
great.
ours to get there, and let's see what happens, and maybe make a definitive whatever, if we want to have our own focus and what we're looking for. Let's see how it goes. Let's get started.
Well, that's worries me a little bit, because we don't wanna have our own
That's what I'm
focus.
saying, that's what I'm saying, and what you're saying is a couple things that we're there to look at and report back.
Yeah,
I feel like
SIP and
that's a
needs.
focus.
To me, those are very simple, they're very non-controversial. They're, what are they working on in their improvement plan?
I'm afraid of
Which
the
will
needs
eventually
thing.
be driven by the school improvement, the district improvement plan.
Right.
And then what are your needs? I wanna know in
I'm a little afraid of
October or November what your needs are, not in June.
I think we just need to rely on the principals and go back to the principals, because it's the principal's job to be doing that.
And-
through you as a chair. And I think that as community members, because we're all community members, that we could just attend if we wanted to attend the meeting. And I think that's what it comes down to. And I mean,
But we have a goal that we're gonna attend more meetings, correct?
I think it's a goal that we should.
So if it's just
Let's work on the
attendance,
goal.
let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Again, this discussion has probably gone on way too long, because we're really just talking about consistent dialogue. So we can interpret, create consistent dialogue as just being at meetings. Let's leave it at
And they
that.
can present. And then it's a dialogue with the whole.
But we have them come and present, we have a calendar of when they come present. I think we do a
Sample.
mid-year, or did we scrap the mid-year one when we just get an update on, the current SIPs?
That's why you said only
Right.
June.
Right. Right.
But we can ask them, when they do come in, they are scheduled to come in and just give building updates, we can ask them to include that in there. I think they're each scheduled
Yeah.
for 3 times
Yes.
during the year to present.
Yep.
so.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Subcommittee reports, Policy Committee, Mrs. Griffin.
We had a lengthy meeting Thursday.
We did.
We did an exceptional amount of work, and we have an amazing team as always, and I'm very grateful for everybody that comes and sits at that table. And there are policies that are soon to be coming for review.
Great.
But we're making progress. And again, if anybody has any type of policies that they feel need to come for discussion, that would be great. I want to propose that we look at, and I proposed this in the past, but we kind of lost this focus, but we get back to our financial policies. I think that that is an important lens for us to look at. And I do think MASC is giving us that push too, to start looking in that way again. Something that we need to kind of refine. But we know that we have a lot of work in that policy handbook, and I want to say kudos and God bless Helen, because everything that we discuss, she really does all the hard work by retyping it all and taking all the edits and making that handbook live. It's just, it's amazing. Like, she's constantly working on updating it. So thank you, Helen, because we have an awesome handbook online because of her.
Agreed. All right, DEI.
We have our first meeting tomorrow.
All
I
right.
have nothing to report.
Look forward to next meeting's report. Thank you. Personnel and negotiations.
Negotiations are ongoing with the OEA.
And all the other ones are all set?
They're all
Good with
done.
everybody else?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you. Buildings and safety. I was unable to attend. I don't know, did we talk about, Mike, the last, when you guys did the,
Building walkthroughs.
well, we talked about the walkthroughs last time, but then was there a meeting after the last school committee meeting where you
Yeah, we
guys?
got together with OXPD.
Yeah,
fire
can you just give us
department.
just a brief update, because I wasn't
Sure.
able to get there, and I don't think Molly got there either.
Yeah, we discussed the review of the safety procedures we have. Again, we had all the principals there, central office folks. Helen was there also, myself. We still really believe in the document we've created last year that was updated significantly, that it's terrific for our folks and our staff. Everybody has a copy of it. All the teachers have a copy of it in their classrooms. We did decide to author a new introduction to the book, just to explain to folks when they open it, what the purpose of it, all that. Chief Sad and his folks worked on that, and we're in discussion to finalize that this week. But otherwise, we feel like we're in really good shape.
Good.
So,
All right, thank you. District accountability and curriculum.
No meetings yet.
When's your first? You guys know when
We
you?
have not set a date yet. But we're gonna look at that because we have MCAS data coming, and that would be a great thing to discuss. So we'll
Yeah.
wait for Mr. Lucas to propose some dates. You know,
Yeah,
he
most of
knows
it
when
will be
everything's released
send you guys
officially.
some dates.
Third week in.
Because I think everything's embargoed, so we can't really be
Right
discussing
now.
any of that data yet. So when it's out, Mr. Lucas, I know,
Yeah.
hot off the press, he'll be getting us in there.
Okay. We do have a warrant report, Mrs. Griffin.
So I have a warrant report for this evening, September 12th, 2022. I have an accounts payable warrant that was signed on August 30th, 2022 for $95,904.62. A payroll warrant report for September 1st, 2022 for $644,239.60. An accounts payable warrant dated September 6th, 2022 for $73,557.25. And accounts payable warrant for September 13th, 2022 for $83,106.20. That is all.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Griffin. Members forum, Ms. Cook. All right, thank you, Mrs. Griffin.
You're skipping Mrs. Forbes?
That's all right, go for it.
Mrs. Forbes.
No, Mrs. Griffin.
Oh,
yeah.
Mrs. Forbes.
Back up.
I
Mrs.
have
I'm
nothing,
trying to
believe it or not.
multitask.
I
Stop.
have nothing.
Trying to do two things at once.
I know,
there.
I know.
Well,
Go.
give a shout out for your committee
Which committee?
tomorrow, right? Didn't you say you had a meeting tomorrow?
I do. Shout out to my meeting tomorrow. The email went out already.
Okay.
I have nothing.
What time is that meeting?
4:30.
Okay.
All right, thank
Now
you,
we're all
Miss.
tired.
Now, Mrs. Griffin.
I would like us to have a presentation, and I asked the chair, and I don't know if you got my email.
I did.
So I'm making a formal request, I did through email, and now I'm gonna say it publicly, that we have a presentation on school finance. I'm hopeful that MASC would come out here and kind of go over, just all the different types of accounts that we have. We there's so much in regards to grant money, and also revolving accounts. That is something that, I think we need to look at more closely. There are certain procedures, and we have the warrant process. That's one way we kind of check all that. But there's also certain stipulations how money can be used in different accounts. I know that I've done a lot to research these areas, but I think as a committee, again, we might not be individually members doing this type of research. So I just think that would be a great presentation for us to all have.
Well, I responded, and if I could get some more specifics on the presentation, what they do, how they've done them, then we'll look at it. But, you know, our time is valuable here, so I want to know what it's going to entail.
Well, I will say that a lot of other school committees actually have a finance subcommittee where they work together. For example, Worcester, and they work on proposing things with the business finance manager and the superintendent, and work on educating the community and knowing what's going on with finances a little bit deeper. It helps them advocate with key stakeholders like the town, but also with, you know, state representatives and other types of, you know, support that we have out there.
So if you want to entertain,
I want to propose that we reach out to MASC, that we at least inquire what type of training could be done in regards to school finance, so everybody kind of understands everything. I mean, if we took a quiz right now on Chapter 70 and, you know, the cherry sheets and our what we get for support here and our revolving funds,
Right.
I don't know if each person would be able to sit here honestly and be able to speak to certain things.
absolutely.
And I think that it's important for us to all be educated, because one of our biggest pieces of our job is budget.
Absolutely.
And so I respectfully ask that we just have that
Yeah, I
training.
mean, so are you asking for me to look into what they have for trainings? Is that what you're asking the
Right,
chair to do?
and to consider having a training for this board. And also, I'm asking that we get a report on all of our revolving funds.
Which we will have next meeting.
That would be
Justin
great.
comes in and does that next meeting, so we'll have that. And then I will look into MASC trainings on budget, what they have to offer us. And I will get back to you on that. Okay?
And on a separate piece, I did have a warrant that I held. I think that I notified the chair and might have notified individual committee members. I don't know. But I am concerned about how money is being expended occasionally, again, through revolving funds. I know that they're earmarked and they can be used for all sorts of things, but I think, again, going back to policy, if it pleases the committee, that we have some difficult discussions to say, you know, how do you really want your revolving fund money to be spent for each revolving fund? Is there things you want to look at? I personally kind of want to see like an overhead bird's eye perspective of those funds over so many years, because they capture certain things. For example, like
Well,
athletics.
I'm just gonna ask. I had mentioned to you at the policy committee meeting, if you wanted to propose a policy to bring forward to the committee regarding that we could have a discussion. I don't want to have a discussion without the members having that information in front of them so that they can understand what you're looking to propose. Because it's very, very wide of what you're saying. So if you could capture it and
I'm
bring
going
it
to
to the policy.
I'm going to try to drill down and capture it really as precisely as
No,
possible.
what it is, pal, is you have concerns with revolving accounts and where money's being spent. If you want to create a policy that's gonna,
It's not just
Identify
how
that.
money is being spent, Mr. Conaglioli, if I may. Every town, right, has revolving funds. And to be good stewards of the revolving funds, they look for overall how those funds capture money. And they look also if they're growing in certain respects. For example, like our food service program, for years, we looked at how much money was coming into that revolving fund, if it was sustainable for a food service program, if we have to raise, for example, costs of lunch, right? Right now, we don't have to worry about that because federally, they're supporting that. okay? But you look at those revolving funds to say, okay, do I have to increase costs for school lunch?
The
or can I
business
decrease it?
manager looks at those things. That's his job.
No, it's not
or
his
her
job. With-
Absolutely
With
his
all
job.
due respect, not just the business manager looks at that. We can't rely on the business manager to only look at that. Other committees, that's why they have this type of a subcommittee, they look at it with the business manager and with the superintendent, or they look at it as a whole board through presentation, and then they make changes. So for example, when we put in place, when we did our one-to-one technology initiative, right, and we did an $800,000 capital outlay, which I was here for and worked on getting, we knew that we would have to have a revolving fund in place where we were having some types of ways of getting money in. So we did, for example, the insurance on Chromebooks. And then we used that money to sustain the renewal of purchasing more devices. We have so many revolving funds like athletics. We charge certain fees. I want us to make informed decisions. Are we charging the right amount of money to our families, or can we decrease charges in some respects, or do we have to increase them? So like, for example, we have Educare, right? Are we charging the right amount of money? Can we decrease it, or should we increase it? We can't have those very meaningful discussions and drive our budget to make the impact we need to make unless we get into
So the
that.
two places we do it, pal, is through policy, and we do it through subcommittee.
No.
So if you want to entertain creating or proposing that we have a business and finance subcommittee, which some districts do, you mentioned Worcester, second largest city in the state. I can tell you Wachusett Regional School District has one, largest regional district in the state. If we want to look around and see if other smaller districts like us have that, I'd be more than happy to have a subcommittee. Because you're right, that's where a lot of that work can get done, and those discussions can happen, and then brought back to the committee. What we have now is a business manager who comes to us once a month and gives us updates and reports on the budget to actual. But if we want him to peel back and really focus on the revolving accounts
That's why I'm asking
that
for
are
a
under our
presentation.
purview, the things that we should be aware of,
They all
then
are.
we do that.
Anything that's a school revolving fund, I'm not talking town revolving funds, but school revolving funds, that's our purview, that's our responsibility. It is the law that we're looking into that and that we're managing it.
That our school department is looking into that.
Correct.
That we oversee.
We oversee.
That Mike oversees the
So, I'm
business
gonna
manager,
ask.
and we oversee Mike.
I'm gonna ask, when have you guys looked at the revolving funds? When have you got that in your hands and gone through them and saw the numbers?
When we look at the budget reports that we get.
They don't necessarily have all those revolving funds.
Not the ones we get monthly, but we can ask for those if
We
you would
can,
like
and that's
those.
what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm making this request, because we need it. I
Well,
need
you've
it
made a
as a
couple of
member.
requests. So what is the request? You've made a request for me that I've noted. You want me to look into MASC training on budget. That's what I'm doing. I have said to you, and I'll say it again, if you have issues regarding policy related, issues regarding budget that could be handled in a policy, then I need you to propose the policy in our policy
Which we will.
subcommittee, which we can bring to our committee members. You know, as far as the revolving accounts, Justin is going to give us a presentation next week, next committee meeting. And then if we feel after that presentation that we want to see things done differently through that, we can take a look at that. That's kind of where I'm at with these three things. Did you have a comment, Mr. Burr?
Just a question, clarifying question. 'cause I think
Please.
What you're talking about is very important.
It is. Thank you.
I'm confused about what you're proposing the committee as a whole to do. So you
I
wanna-
think we need to have, like, when we look at our budget every year, and we have our
Yeah.
big budget meetings, right? We sit there and look at, and we hear about why we need certain things, and we make decisions, and informed decisions, because people present data to us through the superintendent, okay? We have all these other accounts that are revolving. And there are people
Yep,
that.
I'm aware of how
Yeah,
that works. I'm
right.
asking you what is the process you would like the committee to take?
I would like a presentation. So for example, the athletics, it would be great to hear This is why we need those gate receipts. This is why we need to charge X, Y, and Z. This is how much money I capture every year, and this is what it funds. And these are the reasons why we are going to continue this initiative or do this, or do we need to change certain things? You know, the technology revolving fund, same type of things. Other school lunch revolving fund. You know, some schools are charging more, some schools are charging less for lunch. Some schools charge for staff. You know, I have not been privy to any of those conversations as a school committee member. I cannot remember the last time that they have happened. So I am asking for that to happen.
And the business manager will be here 2 weeks from tonight,
Right.
giving us updates on all the revolving accounts. Again, there are some revolving, so the athletic fees that get paid, that parents pay their money from.
Absolutely.
We don't have a right to oversee or micromanage that. It's not in our purview,
It's
in
in
my
our
opinion.
purview to say that the fee needs to decrease or increase. So maybe, like, again, we have to look at it and say, you know what, we could charge a lot less because we're capturing a lot of money here. Or maybe we have to say, you know what?
Have you gotten any complaints from anybody
I'm
about?
not saying that there's
I'm
any
asking you,
complaints.
is
I'm
there
just-
any? So that's when we get involved.
No. With all due respect, you have to be proactive in the budget. And we're not proactive, and I think we could do better.
So-
That's what I'm saying.
Proactive, okay, go ahead,
Dave.
sorry, Mr.
Just
Burke.
to finish my question. Are we looking at talking about having a regular presentation to the entire school committee about all those revolving accounts? Are you looking to establish a smaller subcommittee that has those meetings, that comes back and says?
I guess what pleases the committee, I think it is something that we are all charged to do as school committee members,
Yeah.
outlined by law. I can't remember the last time, and I'll be honest with you, we're losing a phenomenal business manager. And I think we've all had this exceptional, awesome, you know, we're at ease and we're at like, okay, things are awesome because we have the best. He is transitioning on. So right now, the way I'm looking at it is I gotta make myself a little bit more educated because he's walking out the door and I wanna be prepared so I know what assets we have and how they are managed and what is going on here, so I can continue to do the job I need to do. And I also can help educate the new person coming on. I know the superintendent's gonna do that. I know also that Justin is still gonna be, you know, a stone's throw away. But at the same time, what good am I as an advocate for the budget if I do not understand the ins and outs of the budget? And in the years past, I've had superintendents that honestly, they did a lot of education for me because they've had a wealth of knowledge because that's something that they had a deep foundation in. We have a superintendent who's phenomenal, but it is new for him to look at these things as well. I know that I have a good amount of knowledge already, but I also know that I have other board members here that are new. And I don't know what training that you've received. So when I asked for MAC to come in, it's not a slight or an insult. It's because I know that we could all benefit from the education.
But we all get that training as new
We
members.
get charting the course,
Yeah.
it's one day.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think that's
Again,
sufficient.
as I've stated twice now, I will look into MASC trainings
Mm-hmm.
regarding budget and see what will make sense for our committee. That's number one.
Thank you.
To Mr. Burke's point of earlier, are you looking to start a subcommittee? If you are, then let's propose that at some point. We're gonna have Justin in next week giving us an update on all the, 2 weeks, on all the revolving accounts. If we wanna look at procedurally, we want him to do something, or the next person to do something different, we can look at that. And then any policies you want regarding the use of revolving account money, that needs to be brought to us as a committee.
Absolutely. I'm in agreement.
Yeah, and I think we are in agreement. I think what I'm hearing also is part of talking to MASC is clarification from them to us as a board as to
Our roles.
all the accounts, but our roles.
Absolutely.
What are our roles? What is our responsibility? What's not our responsibility?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that if you're gonna reach out to them, I would
Yeah.
suggest.
why
that.
I'm
That's part of the training, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I think that would be very important.
And that's
For
why I'm
everyone.
advocating for it, because I think that by doing that, we clarify things, like you help educate me, and
Yep.
most importantly, we educate
Yeah.
all of us.
You've brought the point. I
Thank
will
you.
look into it. If it's conducive for them to come in and make sense, or maybe they have a 30-minute video that we all can watch. I don't
watched
know
them.
what it's
gonna
gonna entail,
I'm not
but I will
being-
reach
Let's find
out to
out.
them and get that answer, and I'll get back to you guys.
Okay.
All right, anything else on your members forum?
That's pretty much it, thank you.
All right, Mr. Burke?
So I regret not doing it while they were here, but I did want to congratulate our two new principals on their first opening days here in Oxford. And from everything I have heard, it's going very well. So.
Yeah, good point. Thank you to the principals for coming out tonight and, you know, giving us an update on the new staff. We certainly appreciate that. As I said earlier, it's great to see people and get to meet them and talk with them for a few minutes. So I thought that was really great. Sounds like all the buildings, according to the principals, are off to a great start. You know, good luck first full week of school. You know, lots of great things coming back. I know I was able to, the principals meeting in my district recently, and, you know, we got to give reports on how things are going. And one of the things I mentioned was just hearing the laughs, seeing the smiles with kids back in buildings. So I know that's been really powerful for me. I hope families and staff and everybody's appreciated that, because it's been a few years since we've had that. And I just want to thank all the staff members in this district, all the Oxford Public Schools employees for making the first few weeks a great start. So thank you very much. I will open up the floor for final public comment. I do not see anybody, so I'm going to close it. Our next regular meeting is Monday, September 26th. If you have anything else that you want to be put on the agenda, send me an email, please, and we'll get that on the agenda. And we do need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote, Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, 5 yes. Have a great night, everybody.